Hello, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we are. So I wanted to go over Euron. Um, Many people ask me and have asked me, how do you square that how do you square that damn Euron quote from A Feast for Crows? It's a very talked about quote. I've never seen a good answer for it. I'm not sure if my answer tonight is a very good one, at least uh, a literal sense of the events. But I can tell you what it means thematically and metaphorically, um, and maybe that's all right. So here's A Feast for Crows, and the scene we're talking about is we know that Bran's story has been all about flying and the three-eyed crow and things like this. And here, Euron Victarion goes to meet Euron, and Euron tells this story. He says, "The crow's eye had taken Lord Hewitt's bedchamber along with his bastard daughter. When he entered, the girl was sprawled naked on the bed, snoring softly. Euron stood by the window, drinking from a silver cup. He wore the sable cloak he took from Blacktide, his red leather eye patch, and nothing else. When I was a boy, I dreamt that I could fly," he announced. "When I woke, I couldn't. Or so the maester said. But what if he lied?" Victarion could smell the sea through the open window, though the room stank of wine and blood and sex. The cold, salt air helped to clear his head. "What do you mean?" Euron turned to face him, his bruised lips curled in a half smile. "Perhaps we can fly, all of us. How will we ever know unless we leap from some tall tower?" The wind came gusting through the window and stirred his sable cloak. There was something obscene and disturbing about his nakedness. No man ever truly knows what he can do unless he dares to leap. There's the window. Leap. Victarion had no patience for this. So, what does this all mean? Now, a lot of people, they sort of, I think I wouldn't say a popular answer because there's no real good answer to this, but a popular question is, could Euron have received messages from the Three-Eyed Crow? Could he have received messages from Bloodraven? Could he have received messages from time-traveling Bran? Could he have received messages from the Children of the Forest? And, none of them are very good answers. I mean, Bloodraven, you kind of say, well, what's Bloodraven's goal? We're not sure what Bloodraven's goal is. It seems to be for Bran to replace him. Maybe at some time earlier, he thought that Euron was a potential candidate to replace him. But even if that were true, and does this relate to any of the things that have gone on in Euron's life? Molesting, raping, having relations with Victarion's wife, getting exiled, going and finding Shade of the Evening and coming back and claiming to be king and then attacking the South. How does any of it relate to Bloodraven? Everybody's just scratching their head. And then there's, well, maybe it's time-traveling Bran. Time-traveling Bran just has a whole bunch of events, and he kind of does butterfly wings here and there and hopes that the butterfly wing changes will somehow yield a good result in the end. And, that is a possibility, except that the dream happens before Bran's birth. So is time-traveling Bran able to travel back that far? We don't know. And then you could say, well, maybe it's the Children of the Forest. Maybe they want Euron to cause trouble, steal a dragon, cause chaos, so that the others can wipe out humanity. Maybe. But none of them are very good answers. We kind of have settled on this because of the show that the Children of the Forest are made a mistake with the others, and so. But let's really think about what this line means. Because because I think thematically it's pretty important to really look at it. So we got to remember that he says here, perhaps we can fly, all of us. So what does that really mean? Like, what is flying? Euron at no point in the story seems to care about flying. All right. He doesn't care about getting in ravens. He doesn't care about soaring through the air, any of that bullshit, right? Then what is flying if not flying? People never ask this. Like, they're like, what do you mean flying? Like, why is he thinking about flying? Well, flying doesn't mean flying. Flying has to be a metaphor for something, because he has or does he think, oh, I can fly on a dragon? Is that it? Perhaps we all can. Is it about dragons? The thing is, in Bran's context and in the Three-Eyed Crow's context, it doesn't mean dragons. Okay? In the Bran context, flying is a metaphor for eternal life through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. I know that sounds funny, but of course that's what it is. Like, Bran's story is about religious conversion. Okay? He feels broken, and the old gods' religion offers him freedom to break his chains, which is a very biblical thing. There must be, 4 dozen references in the Bible about God breaking chains and making people feel free. And the promise of I don't know, like eternal life in a heaven. I mean, the werewood net is God, and he goes and lives them there eternally in a community of people. It's heaven, it's God. So, he goes to the Three-Eyed Crow, and he has he does the whole sacrament thing with the blood of Christ, with the werewood paste and all of that. So flying is the promises of religion to people. Eternal life, a freedom of pain, a freedom from turmoil, and all of the things that earthly pain and things like this. This is why there's the whole fly or die kind of offer to Bran. Fly or die. What does he mean? Fly or die? Well, that's what religion tells us, right? That no, you're going to die forever unless you have faith in our religion, and then we offer you eternal life. That's what Bloodraven, time-traveling Bran, the werewood net, the old gods, whatever, that's what's being offered to Bran. Okay, he's being offered the promise of religion. And his whole journey is to find religion, right? And so then we get to Euron. Okay, so flying is salvation, for lack of a better word, as if, salvation really, has much meaning. But religious salvation is what flying is in the Bran story. So, and when we talk about the Reaver chapter, keep in mind that, by the way, the Reaver chapter takes place in between Cersei's trip to the Sept Baelor to meet the High Sparrow, and Jaime's trip to Lancel, and his religious visions. Okay, that's where this chapter is. And keep in mind that in a parallel sense, at the same kind of time, Arianne, well, actually, I mean, timeline wise, it's much before, but only a few chapters earlier, Arianne is also seeking eternal life through song, through her queen making adventure. Okay. They actually, by the way, if you want, he says, perhaps we can fly, all of us. If you want, let's see, let me bring up, we can go to A Feast for Crows. Let's go to the Arianne chapter. All of us. This is happening at the same time in the story, more or less. 7 riders on their way to glory. One day the singers will make all of us immortal. Okay, that's happening at the same time, in the story, not timeline wise, but in the story as what if we couldn't all fly? Perhaps we can fly, all of us. And then before this, we have the bruised lips. Okay, right there, we get the shade of the evening reference right before that. And we know that, Dany goes to the House of the Undying, where they have their hive net heaven, where they try to suck Dany in to live forever. They are undying. So what Euron is saying here is perhaps we can all be immortal. Perhaps we can all be our own religion. Perhaps we can all be our own gods through eternal life. Okay? And of course, after this story, we know that in the Forsaken chapter, he is asking Euron to pray to him. He is becoming a god. He thinks himself a god and wants Euron to pray to him. So the context and themes of this story is, yes, we're supposed to think of the Bran story. Bran is being offered religious salvation through the weirwood net. Meanwhile, Euron is saying, perhaps we can all have our own religious salvation. Perhaps we can be our own gods. Perhaps we can have eternal life and be our own gods. Each of us. And that seems to be what he's doing, when we look at the Euron chapter. And if we're talking about his bruised lips and creating his own House of the Undying situation, is what he's really talking about. And, it somewhat fits with George R. Martin. George R. Martin has, written and talked about like, oh, can we download our brains into computers and stuff? And can we achieve eternal life and stuff like that? And now, I'm not saying all of this kind of makes sense. Like, how do we know unless we leap from some tall tower? Like, what does that mean? Are we talking about Ashara Dane and her legend and the immortality that she achieved from that? Or are we talking about some of the other songs about people jumping from towers? Like, why is the metaphor coming back? Or we're talking about Bran's tower. Like, why is it so important that Bran like falls and jumps? And what does that all mean? I don't have all the answers there. And I don't even know if George like thought all of this through. He, in the House of the Undying vision that Dany has, it was Euron at one time. It's clearly been switched to Victarion because he all of a sudden wants Victarion to live. But when people ask me sort of like, what does this mean? What does this mean? It was Euron some sort of student of Bloodraven or time-traveling Bran or the Children of the Forest. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if George knows. I think that part is messy. But what I can tell you is that thematically, when he says, perhaps we can fly, he's talking about creating our own, being egoist and like creating your own religious salvation within yourself and becoming perhaps immortal. Maybe he's actually talking about becoming immortal with his own House of the Undying, creating his own House of the Undying, creating his own religion, creating his own cult that people will worship him for, and that's where I see the actual connection. Anyway, that was a long, rambling explanation, but I'm not sure if that made sense for people, but that's what I see. Okay. Back to the chat. In Bran 3, Game of Thrones, Bran has a vision of a cold, alone Jon. Is this a vision the Crow gave of Jon's death? And if so, why? Also, any ideas on why he tells Bran not to remember who pushed him? So, there's a couple times where Jon feels cold. He, obviously, we all kind of jump to the end of A Dance with Dragons when he's been stabbed. But there's another moment before that. I'm trying to remember which chapter. But there's another chapter where he's feeling so cold, and Ghost, or is Ghost gone at the time? He's trying to see if Ghost worms him or something. It he actually like gets a vision at the same time. Of the crypts. Maybe that's how I'm gonna find it. I think he has a crypt vision at the same time. So I think it's even a few times here. So they bring this up a bit. Let's see. In Jon 4, Jon 4, Game of Thrones, Jon says, the castle's always empty. It always scares me. I run, climbing the tower 3 steps at a time, screaming for anyone, everyone. I find myself in front of the doors of the crypt. It's black inside. And then when I wake, that's always when I wake, his skin cold and clammy, shivering in the darkness of his cell. So he's already talking about he has these dreams of being cold. And him being alone, right? So he's been going through this tower. He's alone, no one's there, and he's feeling cold. And then Ghost warms him in the end, and so we have that reference in Jon 4, and I want to say there's some more. I think it happened here again in Jon 7. He has another dream of the crypt. It went further. The vaults were opening. Cold black graves. His heart's hammering. He couldn't get out of the terror. It was only a dream. And then I want to say there's even some more where it happens repeatedly where Jon feels cold. So but getting back to the actual question, is this a vision of Jon's death, and if so, why? I think that if you kind of link all of the dreams together, they seem to have to do with like Jon dying and Jon feeling cold and alone, the crypts, and Bran. They all seem to be connected with the three-eyed crow and things like that. But yes, it is probably linked to Jon's death. And yes, whatever you believe, like with regards to what will happen later in the story or who the three-eyed crow is and things like that, it's pretty clear that the three-eyed crow wants Jon to die. It's part of whatever plan the three-eyed crow has. Now, I have an idea. I have an idea of what I think George was thinking, and like I think I'm gonna have that in the fanfic where Jon's soul in Ghost needs to do something to help Bran escape from the cave and things like that. But it can go even further beyond that if you want. If you're a believer that Jon is going to be resurrected and then lead an army, he needs to die to do that, right? And you can even take a religious element to this, like Last Temptation of Christ. Like Jesus needed to die on the cross in order in order to die for the sins of man and all of that. Like in a sense, like, yes, it's horrible that Jesus is dying, but Jesus needs to die, right? And it's kind of a very similar concept with Jon. Like, why would Bran want to kill his brother? Why would anyone want to kill Jon? You know, like, oh well, because he needs to die for something else to happen. There needs to be that death, you know. So that's the why. These visions are there to show, to influence and make the future happen. And Jon needs to die. Also, any idea why he tells Bran not to remember who pushed him? You know, that's a good question. Like, why does he stay the Golden Man? And like, why is Jaime's Jaime's name never even said when like Bran sees him in that room? Like he, you know, it's not like Bran hasn't seen Jaime before, but when in the chapter where he's pushed from the tower, he doesn't ever say, "Oh yeah, that's Jaime Lannister." You know, he says the Queen, but he doesn't say Jaime, or the, you know, and in the visions he has, Jaime's not identified. I don't know. I don't know why Jaime is always misidentified and doesn't have like a face. It may be that, you know, in the end, what George is going to say is like, the Golden Man was the three-eyed crow the whole time. The Golden Man was Bran the whole time. The Golden Man's face is actually Bran's. And you're thinking it's Jaime, and it's set up to be Jaime, and it's actually Bran. Because Bran in his time travelness pushed himself from the tower or something. You know, that'd be my best guess on it. Something kind of, I mean, I'd almost say trite, but yeah, I think it's probably something like that. Hamas is like Lady Stoneheart. Trauma corrupts. Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously Hamas is a bunch of crazies who have been born out of harsh, traumatic conditions. Traumatic conditions caused by a lot of different forces, you know. Obviously Israel's to blame, but I'm not going to put all of the blame of everything in Gaza on them as well. It's not like, you know, they would. There aren't other traumatic forces causing problems with Gaza and Hamas. But yes, the trauma does create, like, I mean, poorly educated, vengeful, angry people. Of course, you know. Are they like Lady Stoneheart? Yeah, I mean, I suppose, you know. I always think of Lady Stoneheart as just like a function of Brienne's story, so it's like hard for me to even like think about her as her own thing. Like, I don't even like connect her as Catelyn, you know. I just kind of see her as like, well, she's this like entity that exists in the Brienne story so that Brienne can, you know, be fully actualized, you know, rather than like her being a continuation on of the Catelyn story, which, because the Catelyn story is kind of done. Catelyn is gone, but Lady Stoneheart's there. So yeah. Rufio. Who's Rufio? So am I supposed to know Rufio? Is this Oh, from Hook? Wasn't there a Rufio like sequel movie or something that they actually did? There's like a Hook return of. Wasn't there a there was a Kickstarter campaign for Rufio. Um, yeah, they actually did a short a short movie from Kickstarter for Rufio. Um, Hook is one of those movies where so I saw Hook when I was somewhat young, and man, that movie's horrible. And yet, like, there's so many kids who have been raised on Hook that like it's got nostalgia for them, so they're just like, oh no, that movie's great, and I love Rufio, but it's it's a very funny thing because if you're not of a particular age, man, like there's nothing to Hook. Um, the guide says that there is an art to flying, or rather a knack. The knack lies in learning how to throw yourself. Oh yes, of course, at the ground and miss. Yes, I believe you have to be distracted by your suitcase or something, right? But yes, learning to throw yourself at the ground and miss, or which is essentially what satellites do, right? Um, you got to be flying at a large enough velocity, like the moon. But yes. How many times would you need to hear "Today is not the day I die" before asking when they die? Even uninterested, you would ask to shut them up. Um, Today is not. That's true. I mean, at some point, I'd be like, yeah. Well, what day do you die? Today's not the day you die. Well, what day is that? I mean, obviously, it's like one of those things where, the plot needs someone not to mention it. There's a scene, I think it's in Sam 1, where Sam is talking about really interesting stuff and Jon cuts him off. You know? And I'm just like, you idiot. What are you doing? Why are you cutting him off on this really interesting stuff? Like, what are you doing for the rest of the day? Like, feeding your direwolf? Like walk like there's nothing going on at the wall. Your day isn't busy, okay? This is the Middle Ages. People are really bored. People are really, really bored. I was reading an article about how, like, actually in olden times we kind of picture like peasants in olden times getting like working all the time, and they're like, actually no. Like in olden times, people hardly worked at all. They had very leisureful lives where they just kind of sat around. There should be, if somebody has interesting information like that, it's not like, don't cut them off and be like, what? But George doesn't want to tell the audience, so the character cuts him off. But it's ridiculous. But yes, of course he should be like. I mean, the thing is, not only this. Okay, have you? I mean, anyone that's ever been camping, okay, or hiking with somebody for like days, and you are spending hours upon hours upon hours, or even let's say you done a road trip across America and you're in a car and you're just hours and hours and hours and hours with someone, okay? And you talk and talk and talk and you run out until you run out of things to say. That should be life in the Middle Ages, ice and fire on the wall. Bran is sitting there for weeks. They spend weeks. Keep in mind, they walk, right? They walk from Winterfell to the Night Fort. So that's going to take them months. They spent months. And he never was like, yeah, Jojen, tell me all about that. No, like never came up. Never came up. They're bored as hell, walking all day, doing nothing. And he can't just be like, yeah, tell me about that dream. No, not going to. Got something else to talk about. What else were they talking about? Frog recipes, like I'm surprised that it took them so long to get to the Night Fort before they started telling ghost stories. They should have been telling those stories like the entire time. Ironborn are descended from a cult that sided with the others in the long night. First men never built ships because it went against the pact. Huh. I'm trying to remember and this is all like World of Ice and Fire, Ironborn stuff about like the Grey King and when he lived and stuff like that. Like one of the things that's of course the timeline doesn't seem to make much sense considering that they're using iron, but the Endel invasion hasn't happened and things like that. I'm just trying to think of like anything that would say that didn't happen. Could it have happened? I mean, it's always possible. One of the things that's kind of interesting about pacts is that asking myself, like, if you ask yourself, like, how did Craster ever get to the point where he had his situation going? Like, how did he talk to the others to actually be like, hey guys, I'm going to give you some sheep and babies and don't kill me. And I will just be, banging my daughters and sisters and it's all good. And how did the others not be, weren't like, no, we're just going to kill you right now. But instead, like somehow Craster communicated with them. They're sitting there going like cracking ice. And he's like, yes, baby. Like how are they figuring that out? It's which is why, like, maybe if he's the son of Bloodraven, that somehow Bloodraven used some sort of mystical telepathy magic or whatever to communicate with the others, but it's just so odd that how did he get to that point? How did he get to that pact? And so you kind of say like, oh, could the Ironborn have sided with the others? Well, I don't know how they would have communicated, but Craster somehow communicated. So I can't say it's impossible to communicate with the others. We just don't know how it's done, So, but yeah, possible. Oh, hey Preston. R plus L equals D. Then obviously Rayla and Bonifer Hasty equals Jon. No further questions. I'm trying to think. Bonifer Hasty. I mean, we lose track of him, right? We kind of hear this like story that he was totally into the queen, and then he's just, and then he becomes religious or something, and then that's it. According to Selmy, Bonifer, he wore their favorite attorney, defeated all the challengers, named her Queen and Love of Beauty. Their love was ultimately a brief thing, and could have never been otherwise, as Bonifer was too lowborn. It's I don't know how. So the situation between Bonifer and Rayla reminds me of the situation between, or the supposed situation between Kristen Cole and Rhaenyra, where everyone is sitting around and being like, they're infatuated with each other, they love each other, and it's like, how do you fucking know? Like, how do you know? Like, what are you inside their heads? You know, like what do you know about this? Like, how do you know Rhaela was infatuated? Like, how do we know that Rhaela was infatuated with Bonifer, and how do we know that Bonifer was infatuated with Rhaela? Because he asked for her favor, an attorney. You know, like, it's such an odd thing. And yes, and Kristen Cole is obviously like too low born and too low birth and a Kingsguard. So it's just and so he found solace in religion. I don't even know, like, you know, like how, like, so many things don't make sense about it. Like, had Bonifer actually had sex with her, the dude's gonna get executed. You know, like, so how does it even get out that people are like, oh, they had this brief relationship? Well, what relationship? Like, you know, what was it? Was it like, did they go was it like sixth grade? Did they go together for a while or something? Like, where it was just like, you know, maybe some kissing, you know, like, what is it? Because if they're having sex, he's dead. Though I think if whatever relationship they supposedly had, it was before even Aerys and Rhaela were married, so their sex would have been pre Rhaegar. But you know, could he have snuck in at some other point and met Rhaela? The the thing is here's the, like, burst the bubble of it though. Rhaela, he somehow needs to get to King's Landing and have sex with Rhaela around the same time as Aerys rapes her. And then then pregnant Rhaela needs to get to Dragonstone, and then I guess Jon would be getting born on Dragonstone. Is this, it would be, I suppose, the idea. But where is, like, is he at court? I don't think he's at court. He stopped jousting, and yeah, he's just oh wait, at some point he had, here's something that might be okay. At some point he served under Lord Owen Merryweather, and Owen Merryweather was the hand of the king. So maybe he was brought to court under Owen Merryweather. I'm trying to think. He resigned from his position in 81. No, wait. Oh no, I got this. Tywin resigned in 81. Merryweather became hand, and then he's hand. Oh, but then he's hand right before Jon Con. I mean, Hasty would be there, but he'd be there just too many months before. He would have impregnated her at the wrong time. Like, she would have been much more pregnant, right? Because if he's hand before Jon Con, so Jon Con is hand during the Battle of the Bells. So we're talking like Bonifer Hasty being there near the beginning of the war, rather than the Ares Rayla rape, which would be, near the end of the war. Um, yeah, I guess it'd just be like it'd be. I don't think unless Hasty somehow snuck back in after being back. Though it's really interesting, no one ever talks about how Hasty would have been back serving under Merryweather. Anyway, I don't think it can happen just because Hasty wouldn't be at court at the right time. But it does highlight the interesting aspect that that Hasty would have been back at court. No one ever talks about that. That Hasty would have been back at court under Merryweather, and that would have caused some issues. Huh. That's some of the that's that. I mean, that's really it's something interesting that came out of that. But man, that's something I hadn't thought about. In Fantastic Four #4, Namor describes Atlantis as a nuclear wasteland where he found a magical horn that can summon monsters from the deep. Yeah, I mean, I think there's like a long history of like horns summoning things, right? That I want to say that like it's we always have this like image of somebody with like this big like conch or something that they're blowing into, and I'm trying to think if there's anything like like the horn of Valhalla or something in Norse mythology. There's various horns. I guess we get this idea of Gabriel's horns. I mean, not that George R. Martin wasn't a huge Fantastic Four fan, and he wasn't, he obviously did read Fantastic Four. But I'm trying to remember, like, there's so many horns that I want to say that like exist in mythology, that I can't really think that it's anything too special that that the horns can, that horns can't summon people from the deep. I'm trying to think of anything from Greek mythology. I don't know. I'm sure some other people have come up with let me come down here and see what's going on. Yeah, Poseidon had a magic horn to summon ocean beasts. Horn of Gondor. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like there's so many myths of people in mythology blowing horns. Is that where I was? Yeah. Okay. Though it is kind of, it's interesting nonetheless. Atlantis was a nuclear wasteland? All these people are now, all these people did love Hook. Yeah, when Sam is talking about the chronology being wrong, it's like super interesting stuff. Like, what is Jon doing? What is Jon doing? He's somewhere to be? Preston, are you fight, flight, or freeze? Do you feel like George favors any particular trauma response as his character? I think I've told this story before. There's definitely some times in my life where I've been in danger, and I've had different responses. So when I was about 20 years old, I was walking home from a party at like 4 a.m. in the winter, drunk down a dark street, 54th Street in Chicago, and some dudes run out and I just take off running, but I'm like so drunk and stumbly that they easily catch me and they kick me down, and I give them my wallet. And so at that point, like I was like, oh, I must be like a fighter. I must be a flight kind of person. And later, I think a year later or so, there was a car drove up and flashed a gun, and they said, get over here, and I like took off running. And there was a time many years later when I was in DC where a car pulled up and pointed a gun at me, and I just took off running. And there was another time where I was outside of a Redskins game, and some dudes ran up, and I took off running, and my friend didn't. So all those situations, I was just like, oh, I must be a flight person, because it was like there's not even a thought. It was just, oh, danger, gone. But then there's this other weird time where I was in Ethiopia, and I'm sure some people have heard me tell this story before, but I go down to this lake, and these three boys, they look like boys. They looked like they were 16, though after talking to them, they said they were like 23. But I was talking to them and talked to them for a good amount of time, like 30 minutes. And they were like trying to convert me to Christianity and all sorts of stuff. They're like, where are you from? Oh, you need to find God. Da, 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 da. And then, they want to exchange email addresses with me and all this stuff. And then I start walking back, and they follow me up the woods, the three of them. And they're like, hey, you got to give us your money. And I was like, I turned around and I just huffed my chest out, and I was like, I will fucking kill you. And one of the guys like picked up a rock and threw it at me, and then they just ran. The next day I had this huge bruise on my thigh, and I was like, oh, they actually hit me. I didn't feel a thing. But that was just one of those situations where I was just like, I don't know. I was just like so livid and angry. Or maybe I thought like that was the best option or something. But it worked out. But I think it's been been very random. I'm definitely not a freeze person, but there's, it's been mostly flight, but there's definitely just been times where I've just been like, oh, and like been like pulled a Hulk, and maybe your brain is doing certain calculations, like, okay, I'm not going to be able to run away from these kids. I'm in the woods, like best thing to do. They're unarmed. Best thing to do is, freaking scare them off. All those people that's a gun. Best thing to do is run. I mean, it might be my subconscious like figured it out. I don't know. But like as for like trauma responses from George, I'm trying to think of like most of his characters seem to think a lot when bad things happen to them, because he's writing and he's in their head, rather than just like person just like going on automatic. Like Tyrion at the Blackwater is like haha, I'm drunk on blood, it's battle bloodlust, haha. There's so much like thinking, rather than just stuff happening. I suppose like the losing time aspect comes up a bit. I mean, Sam losing time at Craster's Keep or things like that. But it's the function of writing. I don't think writing really lends itself to actually like describing what it's like to actually have like trauma, because you're on automatic. You're not thinking, and not thinking is not something that you really like want to write about. It's just, there's you're just vacant. You're not there. It's like writing a chapter about being asleep. Ever seen A Song of Ice and Fire illustrated editions? I've seen the Hedge Knight stuff. Let me look at the Song of Ice and Fire illustrated editions. Oh. I've actually not seen these. I mean, I suppose some of the pictures that may have appeared in it I've seen, but some of these are new to me. Like, here's some of them. Like, um, but some of them I think, some of them I have. Like, I've seen this one, you know. It's strange though, because like I do think a lot of the art from that. Yeah, I've seen this one too. I've seen this picture as well. This one I'm going to show. I think it's pretty interesting because sometimes George is really trying to have something be ambiguous, and it's but then the artist is going to put like his interpretation, and it's like, well, is that accurate? Like once they show it to George, like how often is George going to be like, nope, start again? Oh, you worked on that for weeks, start again. Like that's not you got that little fact wrong. I always wonder about that kind of stuff. Or is he just going to be like, no, no, that looks pretty good, you know? Um, like take this picture. Like, is somebody going to be like, well, Khal Drogo, he looks a little fair skinned, Um, is that really what he looks like, or Daenerys? She doesn't look pale enough, Like what do you? Is he really going to send him back and have him redo the whole thing? Or the one I had just of Arya. Like I personally always thought Needle was a thinner blade than that, right? Like that's not how I would have ever considered Needle. And you say, well, maybe it's some other sword. Well, what other sword would you be carrying? Like are we gonna send back? You're gonna send it back because it's a beautiful picture. I just don't think Needle is the right dimensions. But like this is always the thing because like people bring up like the Quentin. There's a Quentin calendar art. Like this one. And you're like, okay. Like this situation, you're supposed to be like, okay, well, you know, Quentin had furnace winds and then he's on fire. And it's like, okay, well, that's very different than literal flames coming out of Rhaegar, like starting him on fire, like that's a big difference, But are these pictures canon? I just started leaving babies in the snow, and they kind of left me alone. Was he leaving He was leaving the kids there first. He's just like it. Just worked out. I was just getting rid of the men because I had only interest in marrying my daughters, and it just so happened that that they just stopped killing me. They stopped attacking. Um, Jace is 100% Cole's son. It's too sweet thematically, ironically. Yeah, I do. I do think I do think it's I do think the ambiguity is really important. But it's a better story, right? It's a better story if Jace is Jace if Cole is the father. I do I do I do wonder if the show, like what the show's going to do with it, because clearly they left it open like that. They didn't show her using the moon tea. They didn't even need the moon tea scene, you know. But um, Oh, any interesting theories on who killed Maegor the Cruel? Um, if I remember, I'm trying to let me open Fire and Blood. If I remember, it wasn't even that. It wasn't even very like presented as very much of a mystery. I may be off on that. I'm trying to think here. Let me go right to the ending here. I know some people think maybe it was his wife or something, but I want to say, let me get to. There's that picture of Maegor dead on the throne, right? Um, come on, come on. How am I not? Sorry, always finding these things. Sons of the Dragon, Prince to a King. So it must be. Here we go. Okay. Um, so here's the thing. Well, I'll bring this up about Maegor the Cruel's death. So it's the end of the war here. So like in King's Landing, a score of lesser lords gathered at Maegor's command. Amongst them, Lord Darklin, Lord Massey, Lord Staunton, Lord Bar Emmon, Lord Buckwell, Lords Rosby, Hayford, Hart, all these. Yet they commanded scarce than 4,000 men amongst them. Maegor brought them together into the Red Keep one night to discuss the battle plans. He saw how few they were and realized that no great lords were coming to join him. And so Lord Hayford urged his grace to abdicate and take the black. He ordered Hayford beheaded on the spot and continued the war council with his lordship's head mounted on a lance behind the Iron Throne. All day the lords made plans late into the night. It was the hour of the wolf when at last Maegor allowed them to take their leave. The king remained behind brooding. And then Lord Eleanor comes in later and finds him dead. So it's one of those things where I'm just like, obviously they all left and all of the dudes like conspired to go back and kill him. Like they all knew that they were getting sent out to die. They're in this situation where they can go to war and die, or they can urge their, Maegor to try to like surrender and die, right? They're dead. So they're all left with only one option, and that's to murder Maegor. Like, I don't think it's a very interesting theory. It's just very clearly all these dudes conspired to murder him and came back in and killed him. And like that's all they had to do is like go in and push him down on the throne. And keep in mind, Maegor's a big guy, like he's a strong guy. And then it's like, let's talk about the theories. Many to this day thought that the Iron Throne itself killed him. Oh, really? Like Maegor was alive when Rosby and the Towers left the throne room? I don't understand. The guards had sworn that no one entered, like they were on the conspiracy too. Queen Ellen, like it's very clear that like everyone was in on the conspiracy and they all fucking killed him. I don't think it's anything, too interesting about it. It's just kind of a Julius Caesar, everybody is in on the conspiracy to kill him kind of thing. Nothing too interesting. But yeah, I don't think it's just all of them were like, yeah, I guess we're gonna have to kill him. We're gonna bribe the guards, be done. But it would be funny if it was just Maegor tripped on his own robes or something. But it's um Biden's State of the Union missed on addressing the invasion of the wildling migrants from our northern border. Oh, that's true. Dick Follard, say his name. Sad. Ugh. Yeah, it was an interesting State of the Union. I watched the pieces. But I think more people were talking about the ridiculous response from I think her name is Brit. So for those that don't know, I'm sure you may have seen it in the news. Like, and Scarlett Johansson even made fun of it on Saturday Night Live. But this Alabama senator begins to tell a story about this woman from Mexico who'd been trafficked and made into a sex slave, and was repeatedly gang raped over the course of days and days and days and years and years and years, and then follows it up and says that Biden's immigration policies are a failure. Except that the woman was that all happened to her in Mexico during the presidency of George W. Bush. Like, it was like the most dishonest fucking thing you could say. Like, it's like overwhelming. Like, you're like, oh, how did they even think that was a good idea? How did they think they were going to get caught with that? It was so bad. That's like the only thing people remember, except that like Biden was super energetic, and Brit like made up this horrible lie. Oh, like, it's just unbelievable. But how do you view the appendices? Are they from a point of view? Clearly not 100% true. Has Tommen and Joffrey and Baratheons show Bloodraven as three-eyed crow as well? Yeah, and Jon is Ned's bastard. Lots of things. I kind of have an order of what I consider canon, and I kind of say what's printed in the text has what's printed in the text is like paramount. That's it. And then I would put the appendices of the 5 books like next, with some exceptions, like obviously people being Baratheons or Jon Snow as Ned's bastard and things like that. Like, and it's mainly as like what is common knowledge. And then after that, like, then I'll go into, I guess Fire and Blood has to have equal stature to Ice and Fire, because otherwise Ice and Fire retcons, like the Fire and Blood retcons wouldn't mean anything. Like, right? Like, so I have to put Fire and Blood at the same level. But I definitely put the World of Ice and Fire below the appendices and the main story. Like, I put Ice and Fire and Blood, like, that's on a level. You have to reconcile them. Obviously, there's contradictions, but you try to figure out the reconciliation. But then I put the appendices below that. Specifically, people always bring up like Estermont, like the House Estermont's like situation. The appendices completely contradict the text, and I'm like, well, you've got to go with the text. When you're facing those two things, text versus appendices, you have to go with like text, right? But then I put World of Ice and Fire after that, and then I don't know if there's anything beyond that. Some people talk about like the role-playing game and like artwork on shields, like, but it's for fairly minor stuff, like what's a house's like sigil and what's their house words. Might come from like a semi-canon source. Also, where to put like George's own words? Like, where do you put the So Spake Martins? I put the So Spake Martins like above World of Ice and Fire. Or should I? kind of on the same level. I don't know. That's hard. It's hard. But nonetheless, I put the appendices, I like to think that the appendices are what is publicly known. And I would put that like above So Spake Martins and The World of Ice and Fire. Because, and then, I don't know, but below the text of Ice and Fire and Fire and Blood. Ugh. But yeah, I think the best thing is just be like, this is what is publicly known. It is weird to say that like Bloodraven's the Thread Crow, but that's what's like publicly known to the public of Bran, Mira, and Jojen. Like that's it. Obviously there's no public, you know? It's funny. George's fight, flight, or fuck. Preston is not who I would imagine when his resume says he's from Baltimore and Chicago. Yeah, I'm from Baltimore. I mean, you know, Baltimore suburbs, and I went to college in Chicago, but you know, my knowledge of Chicago isn't huge. It's just, you know, from my college days. Whoa. Adrenaline, dude. You can't feel a thing. You hopped up on it. I got shot in the head and didn't feel a thing until a day later when I was in the hospital. Jesus. Glad you made it, dude. Oof. Burst this theory bubble. Howland Reed is mortally wounded at the Tower of Joy and wargs into his in utero son from 1,000 miles away. Howland Reed, truancy, seeming old age. I mean, this is to explain the Sir Grandfather thing, or the little grandfather thing. However, if you really want to go with little grandfather, it has to be like Howland Reed's dad. Howland Reed's dad is actually the character that no one ever talks about. That he's the one that's been like warging and causing problems. But yeah, what you're saying, if Howland Reed is actually in Jojen's body, then he hasn't actually like betrayed Robb by not sending forces. He himself like came for like the most important mission. Like I get it. I don't know, but I'm trying to think like, you know, warging into an in utero son from that distance. The distance thing, no way I'm buying that. But there's a question of like, okay, plus his son isn't born yet, right? Mira's the older one. So he can't he's in utero. How old is Jojen? Is he even in utero? He's 13. Yeah. So no, he's not even in utero yet. So it's definitely not, he definitely can't warg into him at the Tower of Joy. He could warg into Mira and then body hop from Mira to Jojen later, or he could not die at the Tower of Joy, go home, and then warg into Jojen later. But and then somehow he leaves Jojen's body when they cross the wall or whatever. By the way, Carmine and I had some. I'm not going to spoil any of it. But Carmine and I had a very cool conversation with G Steph about early drafts of A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, and A Storm of Swords. And there's some stuff about Howland that we talk about, but we'll see. Will there be any mentions of Azor Ahai or moon meteors in the fanfic asking for a friend? I think Azor Ahai is obviously going to get mentioned at various times. Um, as for moon meteors, I don't know. I'm not going to say never, but I'm not on the moon meteor train. Like most of the things that moon meteors do, I would tend to attribute to other things. Like when people say like, okay, could a moon meteor or could a meteorite have broken the arm of Dorne? I'm like, well, why do we need the arm of Dorne broken like that when like regular Ice Age kind of stuff already answers that? Because it answers it on Earth, right? Like we didn't have a meteorite break the Bering Strait. Like just like ocean levels rose because of the end of an ice age. Like we don't need that. Or like Hardhome, do you really need a meteorite, or you know, can it be something else? You know, volcano, nuclear bomb, anything else. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I'm just not on the moon. I'm just not on the meteor. I'm that's not on the meteor train. But like, I think Azor Ahai is definitely going to get some. We've got to talk about Azor Ahai. He's got to come back a lot. Um, Considering that we've got, oh my god, we've got all those Volantis zealots. We've got, Melisandre. Like all this is coming back. Um, any maybe even Illyrio, who is a follower of the Lord of Light, and all of this. So, oh, not to mention Makoro. All these people are still characters, and Azor Ahai is very important to them. So Azor Ahai has to be continue to be talked about in the story. Uh, Biden could hardly get through a sentence. I just feel bad for him at this point. I don't know. You watched a different State of the Union from me, but who's worse at speaking is Trump these days. Oh my God, have you watched anything with him lately? Like all he does is slur and make mistakes. I'm not saying that like Biden's at the top of his game, but like he uh he sounds a lot better than Trump. Like truth be told, Trump sounds like he has definitely had some serious cognitive decline. Like Biden just seems like an old man. Like Trump seems like there is something, like he slurs really weird words and doesn't realize he slurred them and then just keeps going. It's really odd. I'm not being biased here. I'm talking like seriously, like compare them. Um, yeah, I'm just so glad Biden's so upbeat that he enraged a bunch of conservatives. Yeah. Um, okay, so I read Brand's fall chapter today. I'm rereading the books, and that fall, is it me or is Euron the three-eyed crow? I mean, say it's Euron the entire time, but Euron is the three-eyed crow. What has he done? Has he done anything to influence the Bran story at all, or even like move himself towards that direction? Has he talked about the North? Has he talked about the Starks? Has he talked about the Wall? Has he talked about the others? Has he talked about the undead? Um, it's like none of the above. He's taken a kingship and then spent a lot of time like torturing his brother. So it's if he were the three-eyed crow, again, it's hard. You can't prove a negative, but like if he were like, we don't have any evidence he's not, but he's literally done no actions and had no dialogue that would connect him with Bran, other than the saying, "I had a dream once that I could fly." So um Oh, did you have any early theories that were proven to be untrue in the first five books? Um, I don't know if I was really like on the Dario Euron train like too much. Like I think I wrote that perhaps they worked together. Um, but I certainly thought it was a very interesting, fun theory. Euron is Dario, and so when the sample chapter comes out, I mean, for the Forsaken, like that straight up like destroys Euron Dario. Like, um, so that one's yes, that one's gone. Like there's none of that. Um, but the and then it's really hard because there's not that much new material, right? So um, I think I had a theory that Tyrion was wrong about the dragons, but then Fire and Blood came out, and like new information is in there about where Sir Byron Swan is. So that's proven wrong. Like it's just it's it's I had this idea that Sir Byron Swan attacked Vhagar at Storm's End, and that's what really happened. And Tyrion was wrong in A Dance with Dragons, but it says in the text that he's inside watching um, events unfold, so he's not out there attacking the dragon. So that one's proven wrong, But it's hard to have anything proven right or wrong, like when there's no new material, Like it's like, oh, did I have an early theory where I overlooked something and went back and there was new information I didn't see? No, there's nothing like that where like I overlooked a fact that later I was like, oh right, oh never mind. There's just a couple where like there's a couple very small irrelevant theories where it's where it's just like being open to Euron Dario and the Vhagar thing. And I can't think of anything else. Like there's not maybe about Maegor the Cruel being sterile, being XXY chromosomes or something, because or if because I think he might have impregnated somebody and then she had a miscarriage or a stillbirth, but there's not much. There's not much. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's one other thing about I had a theory about Maester Girardis, but that was also retconned with Fire and Blood, and George R. Martin admitted that like he made a mistake. Um, hello, how goes it?
Hello, hello. How goes it? Are you still on this theory about that when you first read the books, you thought they were legit? Are you still on
What
this question?
what do you mean? When I first read the books, I thought they were legit.
Oh no. I'm just asking if you're still on this question. I couldn't see
Yeah,
my
yeah, no,
thing
I
was
just
loading.
finished up. I just finished up.
You want me to give you one? Because this
Okay.
one, I'm sure I cringe. I cringe at this. So one of my first ever videos is about Jon Snow's mom. I feel like everyone has a Jon Snow's mom video. It's like a
Yeah,
rite
yeah,
of
yeah.
passage. I don't know if you ever saw it. It was terrible. I initially had the idea that Targaryens were immune to fire.
Mm.
I didn't know about the So Spake Martin thing
Oh, right,
because
right, right.
remember So Spake Martin. Like I think that's when he like confirmed that Targaryens are not immune to fire.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think he did. But also, like, I think Dany has some burns on her hands at the end of A Dance with Dragons. Um,
The other theory I had was that Benjen was the three-eyed crow.
oh, right. I'm sure, like, yeah, or something like that, or Benjen is cold hands or something and stuff like that. That was proven
Benjen
wrong,
is
though, for
cold
sure.
hands. Wait, Benjen is cold hands was proven wrong because I'm still on that.
Benjen is cold hands is proven wrong because somebody
Children.
went to the library and got the draft of A Dance with Dragons, and his editor asked him,
Oh yeah, I did a
um,
video on this. I know what you're
yeah,
talking about, but I still have hope that Benjen is cold hands. I know the Children of the
yeah.
Forest said that he died a long time ago, and they're ancient creatures,
Yeah,
so
and
to them a long time ago,
his cloak is a little rotten or something. So
something
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah,
So I'm still holding out belief that he's the three. I mean, where the fuck is he?
Yeah, but how can Euron even be Dario? Is so the way the theory works, and it's actually quite accurate. If you look at it, one of the things that you don't realize when you read A Storm of Swords is that, and there at the beginning of the book, George actually says like a note on chronology, like this, like not all of these chapters are happening in order or and so when you read Daenerys' story is spread out through a Storm of Swords. So you kind of get this idea that it's happening at the same rate as everything else, but it's not. Like Daenerys' story happens within a couple, like 2 or 3 weeks. Like she arrives in Astapor, she conquers Astapor, she goes to Yunkai, she conquers Yunkai, she goes to Meereen, she conquers Meereen. Like it's fast. It is, and later in A Dance with Dragons, they even say that she conquers Slaver's Bay within a few weeks. A Storm of Swords, the rest of the story takes place over about 3 or 4 months. So when people say like, "Oh, how can Euron and Dario be the same person?" Because Euron takes, like we hear from Rob's perspective, Catelyn and Rob, that Euron has become king in the middle of that book. How is that possible? Well, it's possible because Dany's story finishes. The Dario character would have traveled to the Iron Isles and done the events there, and then traveled back because Dario is missing for the first half of A Dance with Dragons on some mission, and so he supposedly he's talking to the Lazarene. And so the idea is that he didn't actually go to see the Lazarene. He actually went to Slaver's Bay, and you can find a whole bunch of like similar things that they said. It was a great theory because really like it would have linked some story and been quite a surprise, but it just wasn't true. It just wasn't true. Like timeline wise, it could work out. It just wasn't true though, because in the end we find out that no, he was torturing his brother the entire time. So, yeah. So how you doing otherwise, Carmine?
I also wanted to join and talk briefly about that Game of Thrones illustrated edition thing because the audience doesn't know this, but you had this fucking hilarious rant about fan art, and it's not the rant you guys think it is. Preston loves fan art. It's just that Preston hates every time someone does a fan art of Rhaegar. It looks like the same celebrity. And remember, you asked me which celebrity.
Oh, the fact that it looks like Chris Hemsworth. Yeah.
You asked me, who does this look like, Carmine? Thor? And you're like, yeah, you got it right. I'm like, oh shit, because it does look like Thor every time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was this one. It was very clear. It's very clear because artists do this a lot. Like it's very clear that this guy had a picture of Chris Hemsworth and was drawing. Like, because I get it. I'm just like Carmine. Who is this? And you're like, that looks like Thor. I was like, exactly. It's clearly Chris Hemsworth. And this isn't the first time. Like I've noticed. Like I've when I was young, I read a lot of comic books, and this is really weird, but I used to, because I would read Playboys when I was a young boy. I would recognize the comic book characters in the same poses as women in Playboy. And I would like get the Playboys out and be like, they copied them. Like, and I realized like, but at the time I was like, this is so weird. Like, why are all the comic book characters in the same poses as Playboy models? And you kind of realize that like when you want an actual naked body, like doing a pose, it's actually hard. Like that's the go-to place that you would go to find like a naked body. You want, and superheroes had all the tight spandex on, right? So you actually need like a naked body in order to have a model to draw off of. But it was really weird that I would like recognize, like because I just remember like it would be like months later, I'd be like, but I recognize that. go back. So weird. Yeah. Jamie is misidentified because if Bran knew his identity and how he fell from the tower, he would tell his family what happened when he woke up. The pieces wouldn't be in the right place for time traveling Bran's plan. That's a, I mean, that's a perfect explanation. That's a great explanation that he needs to have the war unravel in a certain way, and it can't be with Jamie being immediately outed. Plus, if he's outed, it ends the story. It ends the plot immediately. So, I mean, but that's a perfect explanation for the whole thing. Yeah. You don't need to fall yourself. Euron could just start throwing people until one of them flew. Man, Google censoring this is BS. The but so regarding this, with regards to like Euron and religion and the afterlife, one of the things that people always talk about, like, is one of the I got you things that they say to like religious people is like, oh, if you're so believe in God and you believe you're heading to heaven and heaven's a better place, why don't you kill yourself now? And this is the kind of like, and of course, well, it's because no one is 100% sure they're heading to anywhere nice. And there's still that fear of the unknown. Of course, they're not 100% sure. But I think that's what George is getting at when he's like, how will we know unless we leap from a tower? Like, how will we know about, like, afterlife and religious salvation unless we die? I think maybe that's it. You know about the Hindu day of Holi and Girl in Fire? I mean, I know about Holi. I've actually been in India during Holi, but I don't know what Girl in Fire is. Have you heard of this? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Someone set a girl on fire for Holi. Oh, this says. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what this is about. Yeah, I'll look out for a follow up on this. I'm not sure what this is about. Um. Oh, she was kissed by fire. She got burned by something that wasn't quite fire. LOL. Oh, this how this talking about Danny and how she was getting. Um. Let's see here. The greater Hemsworth. Who's the best Hemsworth, Carmine?
I don't know. How many are there? There's more than one? Oh wait, there is. Is there?
There's the guy from there's the guy from Westworld. There's the one that was dating Miley Cyrus, who's now taking over for The Witcher. And
Oh,
that,
I know
yeah,
him. It's
yeah.
it's it's, it's Thor. Thor's the guy. By the way, Addison has a follow up. The name Holy comes from the king's daughter who said to survive fire.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. um, like that's the religion's um history. um
I don't know much about India other than India is the best place you can find British food.
um India is a um India, it's difficult to say anything about India because India is like, it's like saying, oh, it's like Europe, and thinking of Europe as like some sort of homogenous place, like, or like, oh, Indians believe this, or even Hindus believe this, or even Muslims believe this. They have so many different beliefs, and it's such a jumble, and it's so hard to get like a straight story on anything because it's just so many people and so much history and so many different cultures and so many different languages. It's really hard to get to really grasp on things. Like even when you start like, because I've even studied Hinduism, and you start talking to people and they're like, well, actually, Hinduism, they believe in one God above all. And then you talk to a different Hindu and they're like, no, we don't. It's polytheism. It all just depends on the person, Everybody, it's like saying, "Oh, Christians believe this." Well, one Christian might believe that, and one Christian might believe something else that's a little different. Like, oh, Christians believe in Trinity. Well, no, not really. Protestants certainly don't believe, in the same sense. So it's like anything else. It's like it's so diverse and so rich that it's very difficult to say anything definitive about any of it, um, like saying Europe, like, oh, I don't know anything about Europe and European history. Well, there's a lot of it. I don't know anything about European religion. Oh, there's a lot of it, you know? Um, but yeah, but I think, I'm sure this is getting brought up to see if like, does it have anything to do with, like George and the religions that he kind of has in his story. And for the most part, George knows a lot about European history and European religions, and Catholicism, but doesn't know very much about other ones. So um, that's the thing. So some people, sometimes I hear people like, oh, in Islam or in Japanese history, this and this and this happened. I was like, yeah, George probably wasn't reading that. He's really big on Europe, not that much on everything else. Um, Preston is the H bomber guy of Playboy and comics. uh,
Did you hear
no.
about the aftermath of that fucking video?
Oh, well, I know he eventually like had to
Not
send
H
out
bomber.
Oh, yeah, no, I know, but he like sent out apologies and stuff,
And
and
then like he had a cryptic message that he's going to like off himself, and then nobody
I'm
can get in
sure. I
contact with
mean, he
him.
seems like a depressed guy. I mean, the kind of thing of having your entire world like, I understand that he made this bed, but like, it's, yeah, how like how much anxiety you would have where you've built, like, he built it, on lies. I get it. It's still, he built this channel. It was his income. It was everything, and then all of a sudden it seems like the entire world thinks you're a horrible human being, and your job is gone. Like, yeah, of course it's going to be traumatic for him. So
But the problem with that is that he had a chance to release an apology video. Everybody does,
yeah.
and I don't think he took accountability or responsibility for any of the stuff that happened when he just like should have just apologized. This is
Oh
something
yeah.
I've come to grips with as I've gotten older, and I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've encountered people like this as well.
Hmm?
I hate being around people who feel as though it is from a place of weakness that they have to apologize. Like not to get too personal, but my
Yeah.
stepfather is like this. He will do mental gymnastics not to admit that he is wrong or to apologize to me. As I've grown up, I
Yeah.
realize that that's a lack of respect for me, that you feel as though you don't have to apologize to me. I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
That's why
They're
whenever I feel like I'm wrong, I will apologize. No problem.
I
It's not a place
agree
of
with
weakness.
you. And I've run into, um I've run into a lot of people where there's a lot of people who their default, even before you think about stuff, they apologize is the first thing, even when they're not wrong. I think I'm one of those people. Like somebody starts yelling at me, like, you did this and this and this. The first thing I'm going to be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What? You know? And then I might feel like I shouldn't have apologized, but my default is to usually apologize, even when I haven't done anything wrong, just to calm everything down. But I'm surprised how often I run into people whose default is not apology, but to make some crazy shit up to get out of the situation. Like that's their default. And like I remember once, like this is back when my wife was pregnant with my first kid, and you know, we're walking through a crosswalk and some guy turns right, nearly runs her over. I'm acting like an irrational ape, and like he stops at the next light and I run over and I pound on his window and I'm like, hey, you almost ran over my pregnant wife. You fucking, and he was just like, she was walking opposite the signal and da da da. I was like, no, she wasn't. What the fuck? And it's just like, and then he runs the light and drives off. But it's just like his like fight or flight thing was make shit up, you know? And some people are just like that. Like their default isn't apology. Their default is to like lie more and make shit up and try to get out of that fucking shit.
You also have lie, but you also have motherfuckers like Vosh, who the Anna Kasparian situation was so fucking dumb. He can't admit that he was wrong for calling her, and pardon my French, calling her retarded on a different opinion. Anna was right. She disagrees with Ben Shapiro a lot, but Ben Shapiro never disrespected her when they were having a conversation. He acted like a gentleman, even though he's a piece of shit himself. Ben Shapiro acted cordial towards her. Vosh is out here calling her retarded because they disagree, and he knows he's not retarded himself. He knows that was wrong to do. He knows that he shouldn't have done that, but he can't lose face. He has to stick to it and do all like, bro, just apologize.
Right. He said some weird stuff like his whole like thinking it's funny to send sexist stuff to JK Rowling and like he had this whole logic to it on why he should send sexist stuff to JK Rowling because he feels like because she's a TERF, he feels she's like not a real feminist and therefore he should send sexist stuff to her. And it's just like, what? And he never apologized for that either. He's just like kept going with it. It's like, you're just making yourself look bad and giving her ammo. Yeah, I don't know. People are weird. Just sometimes if you're wrong, just apologize. Think it over. Well. See, the thing is a good apology. People like a good apology, and it costs you nothing. Fucking costs you nothing.
Actually, that's not. To be fair to some of these political streamers, not Vosh in this case, but like even Destiny has admitted that he was wrong in a couple of things, and people hammer it down, which I kind of hate. Like the guy is being a bigger person.
Like, like, you're wrong. You admit it. Next, a whole fanfic writing the story from the very start, but Bran recognizes Jaime, and the whole story is butterfly affected.
Do you really believe that if Bran woke up and identified Jaime as the person who pushed him, that the whole story would be different? You really believe that?
Well, yeah. I mean, first off, we'll go down that what if trail. First of all, if Bran woke up and recognized it was Jaime, Tyrion is not caught by Catelyn. Tyrion is arrested at Winterfell by Robb, and he's there. So it's a very different story. There's no like going to the Vale and all that kind of
stuff. If Tyrion is arrested by Robb, then the Lannisters, Tywin still makes his move. And not only that though, but maybe
that's right. But now the North is fully sending out ravens talking about the incest, and because they're
sure, but but there's no proof. It's just Bran's word versus Jaime and Cersei.
Yeah, but at the same time, Stannis already knows it. So like you have more unity between Stannis and the North. The one big thing that like was a problem. You know?
What ultimately comes down to is Robert. Robert gets the final say, and I don't know if this is show or book, but I remember this might be just show. I remember a scene where Ned wakes up after he's injured by Jaime or by the Lannister guard, and I remember he's talking to Ned, and Robert says, I don't know if his book or show, correct me, where Robert's like, I'm half a kingdom in debt to his father.
Right.
Is
Does he
that book?
does he think the debt as important in the book? But also, like, keep in mind that, like, this is Robert getting messages saying that his wife is is committing infidelity. And he's gonna start getting it. He gets it first from the north, and then he's gonna start getting it from Stannis at the same time. Like, there's gonna be some problems there. Let me see if there's any debt here.
Other than Tyrion being arrested by Robb, held by Robb at Winterfell, and I feel like the Lannisters still make their move. Jaime still leaves to go join with Tywin. He doesn't stay. There's no way he stays in King's Landing.
Well, one thing it happens earlier. So it happens early. So if Bran remembers, he remembers the incest, and he remembers, like, that Jaime is the one that pushed him. All of that gets spread everywhere, like, very, like, earlier when Robert's still alive. And so I don't know. They would have. I mean, maybe they'd kill Robert in a different way or whatever. But because I'm thinking, is Jaime? Trying to think, like, when Jaime and the King even make it back. When Bran wakes up. Bran wakes up in Bran 3, right? So let's say Bran wakes up in Bran 3 and immediately starts telling everybody.
April May here says Tyrion is at the wall when Bran wakes. Yeah, but Tyrion will come back to Winterfell. Yeah. So
I'm trying to think.
And Robb's not stupid enough to send ravens immediately as Tyrion is at the wall or coming back to Winterfell. He'll wait for maybe to get an opportunity to take Tyrion.
Well, he'd probably the first thing he'd do is he'd send a raven to Ned, and so it'd get to Ned by about Eddard 4. So Ned would be alerted much earlier. Oh my gosh, there's incest, and Jaime. Like, this is around the time of Ned's first small council.
Also, why do you think they would take Tyrion? He didn't do anything.
It doesn't matter. I mean, he's still a Lannister. They have a hostage now. They're going to be at war. So whatever the case is, a raven would be sent to Ned in King's Landing immediately, and Ned would know. He wouldn't need to go on his super sleuth, like, trip. It'd just be like, oh, Bran woke up. He says that Jaime Lannister threw him from the tower, and that he and Cersei were having sex.
Like, but Ned's super sleuthing is what the fact that he knows some of this is what gives him confidence to go confront Cersei. So if he doesn't do the super sleuthing,
I'm just saying it's a very different story, man. Like, it's a very different story that all this information is found earlier. You know?
Is it like I said? I don't know, because, like, there's no proof, and because Ned doesn't go on his super sleuthing, he doesn't discover the bastards. He doesn't discover what Jon Arryn was researching beforehand. There's no, like, extra evidence to help Robert, like, see the actual, like, truth, because Robert would have to see his bastards to get, like, some semblance of, like, okay, these kids look like me, but these don't.
Look. Let's go through it logically. Okay. Bran wakes up and he tells the information. The first thing Robb and Maester Luwin do is send a letter to Ned. Can we agree on that?
Mm-hmm.
So now Ned finds out about the attempted murder and the incest as early as Eddard 4, Eddard 5. Like, Eddard 4 is the first small council meeting. Okay, that's the first small council meeting. He's just arrived. Okay, because remember, it takes a long time to get down the King's Road and everything. So he's just arrived, and he gets this letter from his son that that Jaime Lannister tried to kill him, and that there's incest. Okay.
Does Catelyn still go down there?
Kat's already gone.
Okay.
Kat's already gone. She's on her ship.
Why does Cat need to leave if Robb's sending a raven?
Cat leaves because of the catspaw. The
Oh,
catspaw
the catspaw
happens.
still happens. Okay.
Yeah, the catspaw. Yeah, the catspaw still happens. She leaves because of the catspaw. She's on her way, so she's in transit. She's not even part of this whole thing. So Ned gets that information. What would Ned do? Would he? I mean, there's different options. One, he goes and he tries to kill Jaime Lannister immediately, right then and there. That's a
With no
possibility.
proof. With no proof.
But his son has claimed this, you know. Or okay, he realizes he's in danger and immediately leaves. Or he tells Robert about the whole thing.
I would assume he would tell Robert about the whole thing.
Yeah, well, now Robert knows about this incest and attempted murder.
With no, he's going to take his Ned's word with it with no proof. Out of all the consequences that can happen.
Right. Okay. Well, now there's like an investigation, like a full investigation about it, right?
Right.
So like now the Lannisters are being watched. People ask Jaime about it. People ask Cersei about it.
She'll deny it. Pycelle's on their side, so he'll do whatever he can to, like, you know, wishy-washy that away.
Well, okay. Let's keep going from there. They deny it. Who does Robert believe?
Who can he believe?
Okay. Then
because the implications are insane.
Robert doesn't believe it, and Ned leaves. Then he leaves King's Landing and he goes back north.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, it's still a very different plot. Like, it's a very different.
It is.
Story.
You're right. It's a very different story, but I feel as though if Ned has the group meeting with Varys and Littlefinger, or even just Littlefinger, I feel like he would point them in the direction of war. He would manipulate them both.
Oh, I'm sure something else would, you know, would. I mean, Varys and Littlefinger would come up with something else, but I don't know how Ned ends up in the same situation. Because the Ned ends up in a weird situation only because he tries to do a coup after Robert dies. So, you know, Robert has to die, and Ned has to be there at a certain time, and all of this kind of stuff. So, if Ned leaves, or I don't know, then, or if Robert doesn't die, it's a very different story. So,
the first thing that Ned should do in that situation is remove Lancel as Robert's squire. That's the first move. That's his very first move, to get everyone away that's a Lannister from Robert, just in case.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what Ned does. The thing is, Ned's kind of an all over the. We talked about this this weekend, Carmine, but Ned is a little bit of an inconsistent character in a Game of Thrones, you know. But is he?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for that post. We won't say anything about it. Waiting for that post. The moment it drops, we'll fucking go.
Just saw Dune 2 with the Bene Gesserit being part of such an influential book. Why do people reject the idea of prophecy being false, manipulative? I don't think they should. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Pain Causing Samurai. Like, I think that like a book like Dune was very influential to George R. Martin. I think a lot had to do with the time of when Game of Thrones first came out. Because when I first joined the fandom was all about Azor Ahai prophecy and Jon fulfilling it and being the hero. This was just like, it was almost just a given that there was going to be that he was, you know, Jesus, Harry Potter, Neo, like that was just given. But you know, and I don't know, I guess it's because other fantasy at that time was like that. Cause I mean, Wheel of Time, even though Wheel of Time is a little bit more complicated than that, Wheel of Time still operates with this, like, there is a set prophecy ending that happens, and there is a hero that will fulfill it. Now, I admit there is some subversion of that in Wheel of Time, even, but like, there's still that, right? that prophecy exists and is true, and in Harry Potter, prophecy exists and is true. In the Bible, prophecy exists and is true. In the Matrix, prophecy exists and is true. Anything else, Carmine? What are some other like prophecy always comes true kind of stuff? Like other fantasy was influencing readers' minds, and it was more that the contemporary fantasy, and forgetting that George R. Martin is a dude who is stuck in the 60s and 70s.
Wait, did you do Star Wars yet?
Yeah, Star Wars. Star Wars 2, right? The prophecy of the
Anakin Skywalker will bring balance
of the Force. Yeah.
And then the sequel trilogy undoes it.
Right. Now, yes, you're right. But Dune 2 about this like fake prophecy and a massive conspiracy to bring things about, like, and to affect change I mean, that's just so much more. I don't know. It describes George. It looks like Ice and Fire to me, but it's George's other works too and stuff like that. So it should be one of those things. Like, is prophecy all bunk? What's real and what's not. There's really people, like, I read posts from people that are like, no, I believe like every prophecy is actually coming true. It's like, because there are some people posting like which prophecies are coming true and which ones aren't, and some people are like all of them are coming true. I think the show finally shattered it when Jon wasn't the hero in the show. Everyone's like, oh.
But then the choice of who was the ultimate person to defeat the Night King, that sucked. So should Jon have been the hero after all? Would that have been a better story than Arya? Should it have been a fucking one-on-one battle between the Night King and Jon Snow on the top of Mount Doom, Preston?
Yeah. I mean,
no, should it have been like?
No, I mean, I don't. I think it would have made some people happy. I still think that. I still think that Dan and Dave would have screwed it up no matter what.
Honestly, like I said, the perfect choice that everyone will not be happy at is Theon Greyjoy somehow defeats the Night King. How? I don't know. A way to make it more satisfying, but to me, he is the prince that was promised in the show, at least.
Yeah.
Born amidst salt and smoke.
I would have liked that. I would have liked that a lot. The person that you're not expecting, that doesn't have a shit-eating grin on his face all the time.
I was saying how, because I've never heard anyone but you mention how Jon Snow is the bathroom sign, and you're so right. And because for those of you who don't remember, the bathroom sign is when you're out and about and you need to use the bathroom someplace that's not your house, you go to a restaurant and you see the male bathroom sign to know that you are supposed to use the bathroom here. Jon Snow is that male insert for the male audience.
Right. The idea is that the bathroom sign is so generalized and so vacant that anyone can look at it and relate to it. Anyone can look at it and go, that's me.
But here's the thing, though. A lot of the male audience for Game of Thrones thinks they're Jon Snow, but they're really Theon Greyjoy, if you kind of think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely. Theon is much more relatable. He's such a real character.
It's like Rick and Morty. Every asshole Rick and Morty fan thinks they're Rick, but they're really Jerry.
They're really
Morty.
Like you're. Oh, they're really the dad.
Yeah,
yeah, you're right.
Like, you're not Jon Snow. You're not the Sigma male. Like, you're Theon Greyjoy. You would totally betray your best friend for your daddy's approval, and along the way, cop a feel on your sister. At least, most of you are Theon Greyjoy. Most Trump supporters, at least, are Theon Greyjoy.
Except they never were so good looking and good at archery.
Preston, are we doing politics so soon? Jeez.
Thoughts on weird racial magic that George wrote with the First Men, Targs having magic and Andals not having any. Yeah, no, all of that's in there. I think it's just because, I mean, George is writing from a different time. And keep in mind, even Star Wars has the whole racial magic thing, right? The Bible has the racial magic thing. It's, I mean, they all have this like racial magic. Oh, you come from the right bloodline in order to like produce the right thing, you know? And making that connection that these stories about special bloodlines is fundamentally kind of weird and racist, you know, and plays into like weird ideas about eugenics and stuff like this. Like that's a fairly new concept to pop culture, you know. So I, you know, that Ryan Johnson inserts in Star Wars and is like, guys, Star Wars is kind of fucked up, and everyone's like, let's forget that movie. Let's forget The Last Jedi, where Ryan Johnson totally calls out Star Wars for being racist. Oh, what? I mean, Carmen, how do you're a huge Star Wars fan. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but how do you feel about like the Force being a genetic thing?
The Force is not genetic. Who?
Midichlorian counts?
The Force was never generic. Rise of Skywalker proves that too. Remember, Palpatine has a bunch of these clones. Some of them don't have the Force, but one of them escapes, marries a woman, and for some reason their kid has like a very high M count.
But that's after you said Rise of Skywalker. That's after Last Jedi opens up the Force to everyone, right?
No, the Force was always open to everyone. Remember, the Jedi Council was filled with all random ass dudes.
Right, but random ass dudes that were genetically somehow special.
This really should have been like something George Lucas answered, and I feel like he did. I feel like he
But I
did
mean, this is
answer
the whole
this.
thing with midichlorians, isn't it? You've got more midichlorians, and therefore you have like a better access to the Force.
I have an idea that if I was in charge of Star Wars, I would have done this. I have an idea that now you can't do it because of the new material.
Yeah.
That midichlorians are a lie. Midichlorians are a fucking lie because if you think about it, imagine like we discover people that have this amazing, insane ability and you can't explain it. So how do you make it less scary? You explain it with science.
Mm.
Thus the midichlorian thing, to ease the Republic's mind. So I always had an idea that the midichlorians were fake bullshit invented by the Jedi to like calm everybody down, but
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, taking it another just different direction, it's no different than sports, right? Like with sports, everyone's like, oh God, look at Michael Phelps. He's like so genetically perfect to be a great swimmer. You know, you see athletes that are the children of other of athletes, you know, that and stuff like that. You know, it's very clear that in real life, like sports ability is largely genetic and largely something you're just born with, you know. And so yeah, it just makes logical sense that there could be other abilities, telepathy, telekinesis. If you're going to assume telepathy and telekinesis, that some people would be genetically better at it than others, right? But then once you start like, I can see somebody being like, well, thematically though, what kind of weird racial like statements are you making? And it's like, well, I don't know.
to bring it back to Alex's question here, I think Mira has probably the perfect answer for this. She says here, I think it's more fall of the House of Usher. Some families made deals with the devil, so the magic / curse stays with the family. Yeah, I could take that.
Mm-hmm. Going back to our what if about what if Bran reported, he would say that any letter to Ned and King's Landing would get intercepted by Pycelle, who would then tip off Cersei and Tywin. And then
you know what I'm thinking?
What's that?
I'm thinking the entire time, like, in order for Ned to figure out what he needs to do, he tells Robb, keep Tyrion at Winterfell, or have all the northern houses host Tyrion like the Dornish did with Balon Swan. Just keep him there until we figure out what the fuck to do next.
Yeah.
Why not? But no, the moment they hold Tyrion, the moment that happens, then it's off to the races. So someone has to convince Ned to hold Tyrion.
I'm just saying, like, you know, okay, say Pycelle intercepts that and does tip off Tywin and Cersei. are they going to arrest Ned? I mean, the idea is that like putting Ned in the you've got to get to the same place. You got to kill Robert and have Ned imprisoned to get to the same point. And like everybody getting tipped off, I'm not sure if it still like changes the events of say Ned leaving or Robert getting angry and thinking that it's true or what have you. Um, the cat's paw's cat's paw. Could you imagine that? That's actually the thing is we're in Catalan's head. We don't of all the people that sent the cat's paw, Cat is the least likely person to do it. I would sooner believe Sansa. we're, we're in Sansa's head too. I'd sooner believe Rickon than Cat. Like, I'd sooner believe Rickon sent the cat's paw than Catelyn. Okay, Catelyn did not send the cat's paw.
I don't know. Do you want to get off this topic of Bran fingering Jaime? Oh, I shouldn't say that. Bran identifying Jaime
with what ifs. First off, it's like it's impossible to know like all these people's reactions because none of these characters are completely rational. But it's hard to really know.
Well, the only way I can see this, because Ned has powers handed the king, and he needs allies. So it's really up to, at the end of the day, up to Littlefinger if he wants to finagle the whole City's Watch against Ned like he did. So it really depends on who controls the City Watch on some level. But at the same time, if Robert's still alive, then it really depends. You're right. It really depends on Robert being alive.
Yeah. In Bran 4, in Nan's story, she says, the others came for the first time. First time. Do we know of any other sightings of the others after the long night? Yeah, no. I've been doing a reread of the Game of Thrones, and I noticed that as well for the first time. So it's I don't know, because it's an odd thing, right? Because we hear about the pact between the children and humans, and then at around what 12,000 before, and then the long night is like 8,000 before or something. But would it be the first time during the night? Yeah, I mean, I guess it goes to. I guess it's the first time that the others are during the long night. I'm trying to find anything that says anything else. They're not mentioned before that. Other than the others being a legend of perhaps being the first a tribe of the first men. But yeah, I mean they're always associated with the beginning with the long night. But yeah, I do remember the it being kind of striking to me too, being like, oh, for the first time the others came at that time. So I mean, it might be something like, I think somebody pointed out to me once that if the Andal invasion happened actually not in 5,000 but happened just before the long night, and they triggered the long night, like they triggered the breaking of the pact, and therefore they triggered the children creating them, and then they triggered the long night, like that would all kind of make sense and square. But I don't think there's any others before any sightings of the others before the long night. Mm, 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 mm. Um, love that my butterfly effect question took over the stream and pitted brother against brother. Made my night.
Were we having a disagreement? Was that a
I don't
disagreement?
know. I mean, we talk Could you do vid on the original timeline pre time traveling Bran? Oh, I mean, I'm trying to think. Because Bran's been screwing it up so much, like if they're like what the timeline would be with like Hodor being the greatest knight of all time, like Hodor, like Sir Walder, the tale of Walder the Tall, the greatest knight who ever existed, and what happened in that original timeline. I'd have to think about what would be there, um, like how Bran would have, you know, grown old and been a full grown man heading north of and how things would have happened differently. Like no dragons are ever hatched. Um, like what happens to Daenerys at that point? She just dies in the Dothraki Sea. There's so many moving parts on what would happen if like no time traveling Bran, like because okay, so we assume that, let's go back. This is another one of these what ifs. No direwolf in the snow. Okay, so that goes without saying. There's no direwolf in the snow. And so Catelyn never gets she never gets spooked out. And so Ned does not accept the handship because he doesn't want to leave, right? Because it's Cat that says that he has to go. And so he doesn't go south, and let's see. Sir Walder the Tall is out and about, and the Stark family is all like they never go south. So and they never get dire wolves. And I'm trying to think like if anything else, like what else would happen, like Varys would try to plan this Daenerys event, and she just dies in the Dothraki Sea. Like it doesn't. She dies in the Red Waste. Nothing happens. And then they're like, "Well, what do we do with Aegon?" Because we've got Aegon going around with Jon Con. I guess we wait for the right moment, and it never comes, or he comes later. I suppose I'd have to think the whole thing through. But I guess that the comet comes in. The comet comes anyway, which means the glass candles ignite no matter what. So I don't know. Something's gonna happen no matter what. But I don't know. The Starks are all are all safe and happy in Winterfell for a while at least. Jon doesn't join the Night's Watch. Jon doesn't join the Night's Watch.
I won't blow this load too early, don't worry, but I know you're so excited to talk about that fucking glass candle after that information we learned.
I know. Some great stuff. Oh, let's see. Should classic Democrats, liberals, etc., shut the fuck up with infighting until the election and focus on attacking the right's position, or showing variation in the ideals of a winning strategy? No, they should shut the fuck up on infighting and focus on winning the election. And there's no what wins elections is donations, phone banking, door knocking, organization, rallies. Like that's what wins elections. Okay. Elections aren't won by like, hey, I've got this like great idea, guys. No. It's about how well you organize and mobilize. Okay. That's how elections are won. None of these like, let's talk about these ideas because I'm going to like win over voters. No, that's not. It's very basic like organization kind of thing. Is Preston a simp Democrat? I'm a Democrat. I'm not sure what simp means. Carmine, what does simp means in this? Because I thought simp was like you like sympathize with or something, or you like
No, simp
no.
is like it has it has another term that's been out for a while. It's basically a term where it's internet slang describing someone who shows excessive sympathy and attention towards another person, typically a
Yeah.
woman. But it's also used in incredibly dumb ways. For example, let's say you were raised correctly by your mom to hold a door open for a woman because that's polite. Doing so may get called you a simp from incels who have never touched a woman and have hatred for them. See what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
So
but it's
in
just
this
one of these
case, he's using it
situations
like,
where
are
it's
you
like,
simping for the Democratic Party? Like, are you like, giving them extra sympathy and attention and
yeah.
nuance to this specific party?
I mean, when the opposition is literally like Christian nationalism, banning abortion, and like ending democracy, like, uh, yeah, I'm totally. I mean, like these are my options. I'm totally simping for the Democrats, man. Like what are you saying? I don't even like. You're talking about. You want me to go with the party that doesn't believe in climate change, that wants to ban abortions, that wants to like give Ukraine to Russia, that wants to break up NATO? Like what the like I could go on this list forever. Like, what the fuck is like? I'm certainly more of an anti-Republican than I am a Democrat, but I'm a Democrat. Like, it's just like ridiculous. It's almost like everything the Republican Party stands for, I'm against it. It's insane how they have like just come up with so many things that I hate that I can just be like, oh my God, that is the worst idea. Can we just do the exact opposite? Whatever party is against you, I am voting for them. That's like my political position. But like I say, like for the most part, like my political position is uh we can look at the earth and say like what are the best places to live in the entire world? And I would say like the best run governments and the best run countries are Scandinavia. And so we should do whatever policies lead us to Scandinavian system because they clearly have it figured out the best. I'm not saying they're perfect, but like let's get America there and then we can work on getting better, but like clearly the Scandinavians have the best run countries. Like let's try to emulate those policies. I'm not any sort of extremist in any respect. I'm not like sitting here being like I'm a communist. I want to tear everything down. Like I'm very clearly just like look. Let's look at the map. Who runs it really well? Like point. Should we emulate Rwanda? Should we emulate Egypt? Should we emulate China? Should we emulate Russia? Like just go on the countries and go, who's got it best? Who's doing it best? And then when you land on a country like Denmark and Sweden, and you're like, actually, those are some pretty fucking awesome places. Like you go, yeah, we should probably be doing what they do, But in Dune 2, the Emperor kind of reminded me of Biden. I haven't seen Dune 2 yet. Do you know what I'm talking? Does the Emperor remind you of Biden, Carmine?
No, every now and then Alex has an incredibly stupid super chat. This is that one. By the way, for those of you who are wondering, Preston Trey and I did a nice little collab recently. We did talk about Dune too, and that will be coming out soon.
Okay. That's right. Because I mean, it's kind of funny because it's like I haven't seen it, but I've read, I know the books pretty well, and you guys saw the movies, but you don't really know the books very well, and it was kind of a weird discussion.
I've been listening to the Dune exclusive Dune podcast on Spotify. It's fucking phenomenal with Holden Neely and some guy Zabrowski. I forgot his name. It's fucking phenomenal, funny as fuck. And I've also been yelling Lisa Nagaib all day. So I got on call with Preston. Preston, Muad'Dib! Preston's like, may your knife ship and shatter. God damn, Preston.
Was it you that showed me the Twitter that was like no one, like it was like Middle Eastern guy? It was like no one can pronounce my name, but like when it comes to Dune characters, they fucking got them all.
That's on my Twitter, yeah.
The Mad King had a very direct relationship with Varys. I know Varys is seen as someone who has his own agenda, but I do believe there is a possibility that Aerys, that they had similar goals. Aerys loyalty. Trying to think like Varys, for what we know, is what was pretty, or at least he seemed pretty loyal to Aerys. It's just that Varys like thinks, like he tries to make everybody think that way and feel that way. In the end, let's see. In the end, you know, he's supporting Aegon, and one could argue that if Varys believes Aegon is legitimate, this isn't even like talking about whether Aegon is legitimate or not, but if Varys thinks Aegon is legitimate, then Varys is putting, you know, Aerys' son on the throne, you know, and that's he's doing the duty. He made Aerys' son, grandson into a good man, and then he's putting him on the throne. So, I mean, one could make that argument that like Varys has actually been straight up pro Aerys the entire time, and that was all there is to it. I'm trying to think if there's anything to do with the because the sack of King's Landing was mostly, that was Pycelle's doing, right? Opening the gates. Trying to think if Varys did anything against, as spy master. He grew with Aerys' increasing paranoia, but the problem is like, what if he's right? The tough thing about paranoia is, what if everybody is out to get you? And Barristan was against him, but that doesn't say much. And then he mastered secret passages, and then Varys didn't want Aerys to open the gates, and he listened to Pycelle, and Pycelle was wrong. So one could make the argument. One could make the argument that Varys has just been a pro Aerys guy from the whole time. Of course, it's just like having loyalty to a character just doesn't seem like Varys' way, right? I think that's why people don't look at it that way. But we could make a very good argument. What is your favorite piece of music from Game of Thrones? I mean, the opening theme is pretty masterful. I mean, I don't think you can beat that opening theme. But if I say like other than the opening theme,
I can give you a couple right now.
What's the piece? I have to say the piece, even though it's such a ridiculous scene, before the Sept of Baelor blows up. That's a very beautiful
Light of the
piece.
Seven.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful piece.
Light of the Seven. It's fucking phenomenal. I got one right now for you, for anybody who wants to look it up. Game of Thrones, type this into the thing. Game of Thrones Season 4 soundtrack 18 Forgive Me by Gringo Media. And if you sort the comments by new, you will see me, and I have a timestamp there.
Okay, Game of Thrones Season 4
soundtrack.
Soundtrack.
-18 Forgive Me.
Oh my goodness.
It's by Gringo Media. You'll see it there.
Oh yeah, I see it. Okay. Oh, not Game of Thrones DDL. It's on YouTube. You're talking.
It's on it's on YouTube.
Okay, and this is Gringo Media one. Oh, there it is. Okay,
Yes, sir.
Gringo Media.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you'll see me in the comments. You'll see me sort by new.
at 059.
Mm-hmm.
But if I play it, I'm gonna get copyright struck or something. I can't play like 1 second without getting copyright struck. Most replayed is at 57. Why? What's going on? I can't play any more than that, dude.
It's from the scene where Tyrion, Ser Jorah has brought Tyrion to Dany, and he feels as though this should redeem him in her eyes, but she goes no, and she tells the Unsullied to escort Ser Jorah outside the city, and just the look on his face, and the music, so fucking good, so fucking good.
The Dragon Demand said the looks on the characters' faces is what ruined the show.
He did not fucking say that. Did he fucking say that? I'm messaging him right now. What the fuck is this?
He has a whole video. He has a video. He says that that
he does not have a video on this.
No. He says that the reason the show fell apart is because Dan and Dave, like, rather than focusing on story and plot, were like, you know what? We've got all these great actors. We can rely on their facial emoting to carry the scene. And so they would invent scenes, like long scenes, for instance, the Battle of the Bastards, where you just have like, there's sections where it's just Jon's face for like minutes at a time.
Oh, that's stupid. I hated that with Arya. Remember Arya's running through the city in episode 6?
And that's what he's bringing up. That's what he's bringing up specifically.
He's right.
Yeah.
No, he's right.
Okay. you went from like what? Oh no, right.
No, but in that scene specifically in season 5, when Dany tells Ser Jorah get the fuck out, like the look on his face. And with the song that's great. Also the song where the Night King is walking towards Bran.
Yeah, that's a beautiful song. Yeah,
beautiful.
I mean, the thing. No one has ever. There is no criticism that anyone has ever made about Game of Thrones' music all the way through.
No, it's amazing.
As the rest of the show like descended, the music never did. That fucking it was.
Oh, I gotta call someone out because someone was like, Carmine won't read the Dune books, bro. That's a time commitment. Fuck you. Yeah. That is a time commitment. Like, get the fuck out of here. I read Fire and Blood, and now we gotta go back and do again. Like, fuck that, dude. Like, that shit's a time commitment. I'm only gonna read going forward, and I think Preston will agree with me. Any like major fucking expansive book that I'm gonna fucking take the time to read, I better be getting paid for it on some level. Preston.
Yeah. Okay.
No. As a busy guy.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. It's very. Look.
Like,
I
fuck out of here.
It's they're big, complicated books.
The complication, them being complicated, has nothing to do with it. But like time, like the time you have to sink into that. Like with Winds of Winter, if that was released tomorrow, like of course we're all gonna fucking read that because I'm gonna be making videos on that. I'm gonna be making money on that. Like sure, right. But like I'm just so busy doing other shit. Like if I'm gonna like take the time to read this, I would want to like make content on it and get paid from it. But my channel is not a Dune channel. So
yeah.
Fuck you, aggro.
Here late, Chance the Long Night was the original Long Night. I think I mean, right? Is that what the TL, the original, is that was the original? I mean, it's got to. I don't know. Like I say, I don't think, unlike the Uneven Seasons, Like, I don't think the long night is part of the uneven seasons. Like, I think it's a nuclear winter of some sort, whether literal nuclear winter with nuclear bombs or magical nuclear winter or whatever. But it's a nuclear winter, metaphorical nuclear winter. It's an event that's not part of the uneven seasons. And so I think that the long night is just one, there's only been one. I think there's only been one. I don't think anything else kind of goes on. Like the creation of the others seems to be around that time, or the coming of the others seems to be around that time. Unless there's something else being asked there, but Agra, you can follow up. Before I get to Alex, a Republican president would make the Democrats more universally opposed to genocide compared to now where they have been complicit. No, there will be no lessons learned. Like the idea that by not voting for somebody, they will learn a lesson never has worked ever in the history of man. Never. Like let's I mean, we can go back in time to Nader. Okay. Nader wanted us to like focus more on his policy issues. Okay. Do any of you fucking know what Nader's policy issues were? Do any of you? Any of you, without looking it up, what did Nader want? Exactly. Like these protest votes do jack shit. They do jack shit, but put the other party in power. Okay. No way. You think like, oh, if people sit it out and the Republicans win, and then when the Republicans start like literally assassinating Democrats and democracy is suspended, like, do you think that like we're going to be sitting there going, oh yeah, maybe we should have been opposed to like Gazan genocide? No, never. People are going to forget about it immediately. They won't know. There's no fucking, we learned our lesson. Let's shift the party. No, that's stupid. That's just stupid. No one knows what Nader wanted. And that didn't shift the Democratic Party at all. Okay.
I hope this guy's not a Democrat, because
no,
that's
I mean,
so fucking stupid.
It's one of these statements. It's one of these statements that's either from a Republican trying to trick Democrats, or from someone who is like so left wing that they like make fun of Democrats for being neoliberals and shit like that. Like, it's just a bad idea. You vote for the party that best, meets, like best represents you. And then you move from there. You then find the next party that best represents you, and you oppose the party that is the opposite of your representation. That's it. No one is learning fucking lessons from not voting. No, if you don't vote, you're not somebody that they seek, They look at who votes. Like when people do voting things for elections, they go, who are the voting groups that I need to appeal to? If you don't vote, they will not look to you. You will do the exact opposite. They go, oh, you're not a voting demographic, so I won't try to appeal to you. Like if you're not going to vote, why would I appeal to someone who doesn't vote? Like that's the thing. Like, should I appeal to someone who doesn't vote in hopes that they vote? Like that's so much harder than appealing to someone that votes, But it's just, I mean, I'm sorry, Damon or else, like it's just a bad position, man. It's just a bad position. Vote Democrat. That's all there is. Emma Stone won best actress, upset Lily Gladstone. I did not see the movie that Emma Stone was in, but I do think she's fucking great. What did she win? She won Poor Things. I did not see Poor Things. Do you see this, Carmine? You see Poor Things?
No, I have not. I'll be right back. Hold on, homie.
Okay. Hodor becomes the Night King's physical host, the tall Hodor, the great other. It's a good body like the mountains. It's not a bad body. You're right. It's the strongest body that probably exists in Westeros. If not, if the mountains is all screwed up. So it's not a bad body. I don't know if the great other can possess stuff, or if the great other is even a thing that exists. But I mean, I think that if time traveling Bran we're looking for somebody to do his bidding, to Hodor is a great option. Walder is a great option, which is why he's there. I'm not sure whether I'm sorry, but old Biden videos are shocking. His new income is shocking. What new? I mean, who cares? Honestly, don't care. Hunter Biden, don't care. Hunter Biden's not president. Hunter Biden, don't care. Don't care about Hunter Biden. Don't care. You know what I care about? I care about climate change. I care about reproductive rights. I care about democracy. That's what I care about.
Okay. Wait a minute. To this guy right here, I have one question for you, and I want you to fucking answer it. Smack-a-mac, whatever. Did you complain, and I want you to show me proof, or not, Preston, may I ban this motherfucker? Because, let me finish.
Sure.
Did you complain just as hard about Trump appointing Ivanka as his advisor to the presidency?
Or did you
complain about
Jared Kushner taking all the millions from the
Saudi Arabia? If you didn't complain about it,
or fucking the fact that Laura Trump is going to be the head of the Republican National Convention, come on, it's such.
I want you to shut the fuck up forever. If you didn't complain about it,
fake. It's such a ridiculous fake outrage. No, it's not shocking. There's nothing shocking here, because Trump has already done anything you can come up with Biden doing. Trump has done it 1,000 times worse, on everything. So there's nothing that's shocking. Nothing shocking at all. Anyway, I don't care if you ban the guy or not. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors. I think they say statistically you should always go with rock. Or maybe so there's a game theory thing about so say you and a friend have to pick the same number, and if you pick the same number, you both get $1 million. What number should you pick? So Carmine, I'm thinking of a number. You need to think of the same number, and we both get $1 million. What number would you pick? There's a correct answer.
Do I tell you right now?
Yeah, just tell me. And I'll
69?
tell you. You should have picked 1. You're trying to get $1 million.
Why 1?
1 is the most common, is the most common answer. 1 is the most common answer. When surveyed, think of a number and put it down. The most common number is 1. That's what most people say.
Cranog man got 1. Left of you. Everyone got 1 but me? Fuck you guys. Yeah. Bans for all of you. Fuck you.
Now the second best answer is, I think, 7, and the third best answer is 3 or something. Now
7, yeah. I thought 7
now there's another game theory question about, okay, think of a number, and if you are 1 higher than your opponent, you get $1 million. But if you are anywhere else, you get nothing. Okay. So, you say, okay, I just have to be 1 more than my opponent. So if I pick $1 million, I'm going to overshoot. So I'm not going to pick $1 million. So, but I can't pick 1 because that's the lowest, but I can pick 2. But he's thinking that 2, so he would pick 2, so I should pick 3. But he's probably thinking that 2, so I should pick 3, and he should pick, so maybe I should go 4. And so it turns out the most common answer when given that is 8, which means the correct answer is 9. Which means because the most common answer would be 8, you should choose 9 to be 1 over. And that's the thing with rock, paper, scissors, right? It's the same thing. Like, what should I choose? If they're going to choose rock, if rock's the most common, then I should choose paper. But he might know that I'm going to choose paper, so I should choose scissors. Um,
Is that your game theory?
I mean, those are actual like game theory tests that like professors, like academics have Nobel Prize winning academics have like studied. There's a guy named Thomas Schelling who won the Nobel Prize. He used to research these sorts of things. They're pretty interesting sometimes. I had him for a class, and he told me this fascinating story about the so today, if let's say you're meeting your friend in New York City, like we've got phones, we can find each other. But the question is like, how do you find each other before you had phones? Like a lot of young people don't know this, but like we used to choose meeting places a lot. And so in New York City, the meeting place back in the day was like the Lion's Head at Union Station or something. And everyone used to meet there. And so there, and he told this, like, now there's a story like, okay, if you had to meet somebody in New York City and you couldn't communicate with them, where would you go to meet them? And the surveys now are like top of the Empire State Building. Like that's where you'd find them. I don't know where they are in the city. They don't know, but the most common place to try to run into them is the Empire State Building. But he told a funny story about he's old. I went to New York City to meet his friend, and he goes to the guy's apartment. He knocks on the apartment. It's the middle of winter. It's super cold. And he knocks on the guy's apartment, and he's not home. And he's like, fuck. Here I am in New York City. I don't know where my friend is. He doesn't know where I am. How do I communicate with him? And he like sat down on the step and he's just like, well, I've got to figure this kind of thing out. What's the logical thing? How am I going to contact my friend? And he's like, okay, well, the way you contact people, you send messages, is Western Union. So he called Western Union. And he's like, yeah, I'd like to send a message. I'd like to send a telegram to my friend, but I don't know where he is. What should I, and the woman at Western Union's like, well, you can use a service called left messages, where we will keep a telegram here, and then if he calls in, we'll tell him the telegram. And they're like, oh, that sounds great. I'll do that. Yeah. Because I figure my friend will come to the same conclusion that the way to contact people is through Western Union. So he's like, this is great. I'll leave a message for him. Okay, great. What's your name? And he's like, my name's Tom Schelling. And she's like, oh, Tom Schelling, we actually have a message for you. It was from his friend. It was a true story. Like how these like fucking crazy, like, I don't know, like these these game theory things go, where people can come to the same conclusions. Will you ever play the first Game of Thrones game? It was written by George, so it has a few could be spoilers, like fire priests talking to each other through the flames. Carmine, do you know about this game?
No, actually. And Freddie, if you're still there, do me a favor, brother. Tell me the name of the game in the stream chat, or just send me a link to it on Twitter. Just tag me, because I'm actually genuinely curious about this. Is he talking? I wonder if he's talking about the Game of Thrones RPG from like eons ago, which I have it downloaded. It's like D&D, but Game of Thrones. So let me see if Freddie. I'm actually genuinely curious. Where you at, Freddie? I can send it to you, by the way. Press it in a PDF format.
It's interesting though. I once won 10,000 yen in a rock paper scissors competition simply because I was less drunk than everyone else and realized the pattern. It's true if you do pay attention. Some people are like rock every time kind of people, and stuff like that. So Preston, did you pick rock? I don't know what I do. I think I probably am a paper man. Which is because I figure that most people pick rock. So I don't know.
Oh, it's the fucking no. Disregard that fucking game. That game is dumb. There's a game called. It's not the first Game of Thrones game, by the way, Freddie. If you're talking about the Xbox PlayStation 3 game called Game of Thrones, where I think you play as like a Night's Watch guy and like a Fire Priest guy, something like that. So
Is
yeah,
it true
no,
that
that
George R. R. Martin did writing for it?
he appears in it as a goof, as a cameo.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
Huh. But you've never have you played this?
No, but I plan on doing something on it in the future.
I know you wanted to do a review of all the Game of Thrones video games, yeah?
Yeah, I did. Thank you for telling people. Now some asshole is going to steal that idea. Thank you. Bro, you don't understand how many of these fuckheads,
No, he's saying
these
that
content
the
creators watch you and
2012
like they take ideas.
I know, the 2012 RPG game, not the Telltale game. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just called simply Game of Thrones.
Yeah, yeah. So the game takes place. So this came out in 2012, which means this is like after what the first season of Game of Thrones was what 2010.
Yes, sir.
So the game takes place concurrently with the season 1 of Game of Thrones and switches between two characters, Alistair Sarwick and Mors Westford. Um, huh. Okay, so is it kind of like Telltale where you're doing choices? I don't know how much you.
Not really. I'll be very real with you, homie. There is before game trailers shut down, there was a game trailers review of it that's pretty on the money, in regards to like what's about. So I would watch the game trailers review of it.
Okay, okay. Um, in Fever
Oh,
Dream,
oh,
yeah.
sorry. Freddie goes, and the fact I don't remember. I didn't play the game, so I don't. And he goes, and the fact that fire priests can talk through flames gives some perspective to what Varys might have seen in the flames. Ooh,
Hmm, hmm,
interesting.
hmm. I mean, I guess they're talking to each other. Yeah. Does Varys have a direct communication with someone on the other side, right? Hmm.
Um, please correct me. Varys's season 3, episode 1, scene where he talks about his balls being cut off and then like
Hmm.
burned and hearing a voice. That's only in the show, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the
Okay, so
story is in the book, but in that scene in the show, he actually has the crate with the wizard inside, which is not in. But he tells a similar story in the books about a
right.
wizard
So
and hearing a
the
voice
game
and him hating magic. Yeah.
the game is expanding upon that. So I don't know if George. I don't know. The problem is I don't know if this is George saying, "Yeah, go ahead, put it in," because that's what I really want to do, or that's just the people who wrote the game story doing that themselves.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like the fucking like the dagger. Like
Hmm.
Aegon the Conqueror's dream about the White Walkers. Like, is that
Right.
an actual thing from George, or is that Ryan Condal doing that?
Yeah. Now the thing is, in the end, we find out that Varys's voice is kind of lower, and he's been faking it being high. So he might actually have testicles, and they were never cut off, and that whole story is bullshit, which is just kind of funny, So that Varys is not a eunuch. Um, but I love that kind of that idea in the end. And this comes from, if you go to all the way to the epilogue of A Dance with Dragons. Varys it says, oh gosh, it's all like, the search of Ice and Fire always screws up when you have too many selections. Um, Maybe it's deeper. Is that gonna yield the right? It did. There it is. Varys still has balls. Probably. It's right here. Aegon, he's dead. No. The eunuch's voice seemed deeper. His balls weren't cut off. He's lying. The whole story is fake. The whole story is fake, which is hilarious. In Fever Dream, Byron's poem Darkness is referenced. Seems like it inspired The Long Night. Think any poems besides Fire and Ice inspired a Song of Ice and Fire plots. I think in a general sense, I think maybe the Mending Wall, also by Frost, had probably had some inspiration in the Wall. There's I think George also really likes the poem about the Darkling Stream. I'm trying to remember which poem that is. It mentions it in Dying of the Light. There's a lot of like little things like that. I'm trying to think anything. It's weird because most of us aren't poetry readers. Poetry is difficult to really just get into. But George R. Martin though claims that he really loved poetry, and I believe it just by the way he crafts certain sentences and the vocabulary he uses. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of like any like big plots like any that can be derived from stuff like that, because poems, because they're short, they there's not too much to that in plot wise. It's more about feeling. But Rudyard Kipling's Rules of the Wolf thing probably is another poem from the Jungle Book. The wolf poem. It's called Law of the Jungle, as it's called. That's a poem one should probably read. That's the one that ends and 7 times never kill man. But he George R. R. Martin actually really did read poetry, which the rest of us, we have to do it for school, but how many of us actually read poetry? Go over the epilogues too, man. Good stuff. No, I'm going through them all. Right now on Patreon, I've got Bran 1 and Cat 1 up. I'm gonna probably going through them fairly fast.
You're uploading on Patreon now and advertising it? What the fuck is this? Are you okay?
Carmine laughs at me because I never talk about my Patreon. He's just like, what?
He doesn't.
No one knows about it. There's not much, because I'm just like, there's not much on it, and I feel bad, but it does have me going over the chapters of A Game of Thrones right now. Any schedule for the future chapter read release? I don't know if it's a schedule, but I mean, I'll probably release going over Bran 1 this week, and then something like that. It's just a lot has to do with how much material I have to post. I like to put out a video, at least one video a week, and so I'll put something there. So eunuchs don't get male pattern baldness. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Does ball removal make it impossible to grow a beard? I think he'd still grow beard, but he can just shave every day. It's hard for him. It's hard to say. Well, yeah. Man, I didn't realize that this got into a big discussion about the balls. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing is clearly George wants us to question it, or he wouldn't have put that Varys's voice got lower. Like clearly he's gonna do that. But Daniel says, I quite enjoy being a Patreon of yours. Thank you. I just feel guilty when I don't post on it, like, and so I don't advertise it because I'm just like,
So I have to ask you. I have to ask you this because I'm not trying to be a dick. Someone who's a patron of both mine and yours was saying how I have everything set up nice and neat. I have everything categorized because Patreon has this new update. I hate the logo; it looks like garbage. But they have this new update where if like every recording we upload on there, we can categorize it. So if you want to see like collaborations we've done, like I have every single collab we've ever done categorized in the collaboration category. So like I have it all neat in that. I'm assuming you haven't done that. You haven't like categorized everything and
no.
I love you.
No, I haven't done any of that. Oh, Preston, have you read Chapter House Dune? I love that book, but I can never find people who have read the later Frank Herbert books. I have read it. It was a long time ago, but I did read Chapter House. So I can't really go into like too much memory detail. I generally know the plot, but like it's been a very long time. So it's I mean, yeah, I mean, it's been, Jesus, I'm trying to think, like maybe 30 years since I read it. I should probably read it again. I read it in high school. Anyway, any other, this is, wow. This is bold. Hype House Homie claims his favorite is God Emperor, which is a pretty common answer from a lot of Dune fans. Okay, Dune fans, usually their favorite is either Dune or God Emperor. And then he puts Chapter House second. That's bold, very rarely. And then Children, which is often a lot of people's least favorite. Then Messiah.
What is a Chapter House?
What's that?
What is a Chapter House in the world of Dune? Is that?
That's the name of the planet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Dune gets. Dune gets.
Is that the name of the planet where the Bene Gesserit come from?
I forget. It's like where they plan on creating a new. It's where they're bringing the worms to create a new Dune, because Dune gets destroyed at the end of Heretics, which is like super shocking, And so, Chapter House, I forget like if the Bene Gesserit are originally from there. It might be. I think he might be. I think you're right. But it's just the name of the planet, though. I'm trying to remember here. Yeah, they want to terraform Chapter House to accommodate the sandworms. But yeah, bold.
By the way, because we're on the topic of Petronion, seriously, I actually just found this out the other day. So I actually asked a couple of people.
By the way, I was reading Dune, you bastard.
Spoiler alert for a 40-year-old book.
Yeah, yes.
But you know what I found out the other day? I actually asked a couple of people who are supporting both you and me on Patreon. A lot of people don't fucking listen to the exclusives we put out. Assholes. Listen to that shit, you fucks. Some good stuff on there. The fuck are you doing? I put that shit on there for you motherfuckers. Which, by the way, thank you for supporting. That means you like, but still, check it out. We've got some good stuff on there. Always make sure to put some stuff on there. I always send it to Preston too. By the way, someone has a theory that like I keep a lot of it from you. I do not. I give him everything. It's up to him.
I wouldn't say you give me everything.
Oh, you motherfucker! Don't fucking do that. Don't do that. You'd kill me here.
But you know, it's fine. It's fine.
I swear I give you everything. If there's one thing I'm not giving you, fucking tell me. Put my ass in the fire.
Oh my gosh, Smack a Mac. What this is ridiculous. This is one of like, dude, how gullible are you, man? Like honestly. Like really. Like Rudy Giuliani happens to get a hold of a Hunter Biden laptop with all sorts of secrets on it. And then when people are like, well, yeah, what are the secrets? And the only thing people can get are like sexy pictures of Hunter Biden. Like, don't you think it's a little weird that Rudy Giuliani like that? And the story is like Hunter Biden went to a computer store and happened to leave behind his laptop, and then it somehow ends up in Rudy Giuliani's like no one can. First of all, no one cares. No one cares about Hunter Biden. But the fact that like you would think that there's anything on there, like it's ridiculous. Like, dude, you're gone. You're so lost, man. Like, you're just lost. Like, do you understand that like anyone that's not a hardcore MAGA person like uses like thinks about the like when you bring up the Hunter Biden laptop, they just laugh at you people. They laugh at you at how incredibly stupid and naive you are. And like, it's just like, it's so dumb. It's the worst dumb thing. Like no one thinks the Hunter Biden laptop is anything. Like, dude, somebody stole Hunter Biden's laptop and it had some nude pictures of him. Like, and that's all you got. That's all you got. That Hunter Biden was a rock star. Like he's.
By the way, this guy, you don't remember this, Preston. This happened years ago, but Smack-a-Mac, you're talking to the wrong YouTuber because I remember, this can sound weird, I remember when the Hunter Biden video came out of him smoking crack, getting a blowjob by some prostitute, the video was leaked. And I showed it to Preston. You know what Preston's response was? Preston's response was, I'm not kidding. Wow, what a king. That was your fucking response immediately. Wow, what a king. Yeah. I showed it to a buddy of mine. He goes, whoa, how big is his cock? Like no one cared. No one cared because he's not in government. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, obviously on the other side, like Trump banged a porn star when his wife just had a baby. Like how are we in a world where I'd care? Like where I'd care about Hunter Biden? Like Hunter Biden can have sex with as many prostitutes, as many sex workers, use as much cocaine as you want, smoke crack. Do not care. Do not care. No, I don't think anybody does. Who cares? The people that care are the people that already are MAGA. You know, and it's just ridiculous. Like Hunter Biden, like Jesus Christ, like this is a dude whose brother died, and then he got into a cycle of drug use, and now, you know, he's a good-looking guy. He bangs a lot of sex workers and does a lot of drugs. Oh well. I mean, wait, am I supposed to be excited about this? You know. Oh. Oh, I'm a chick.
What do you mean? Let me get on the mic. I ain't doing shit. Up to him. I'm a chick, dude. Well, so am I.
No woman has ever referred to themselves as a chick. Oh man, Hunter Biden. No one cares. No, Hunter Biden's never had a government job, ever. So sorry. Like, didn't, no, that's it, you know? So, oh man. But what you gonna do? What you gonna do? I mean, it's distraction, really. It's like you've got a party that is literally like banning IVF and declaring fetal personhood, and so you try to like change the subject by talking about how sexy Hunter Biden is, and how he looks great when having sex and doing crack or whatever, you know.
Did you answer? Or I feel like you already did answer, like your reaction to Joe Biden's State of the Union thing.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was an energetic speech. You know, I don't know how much
I'm
was
not
to
gonna
it.
lie to you. The entire time I'm thinking, "Oh, please don't shit your pants. Please, please don't shit your pants." And when he ended it, I was like, okay, thank God. And then I realized, fuck, he still has to walk off stage. Please don't trip. Please don't trip. Like I'm just, I'm praying here. Like God.
Sure, but they must be doing that on the other side too. People are like, "Oh my God, like, please, I hope he doesn't say something too incredibly stupid." Oh my God.
No, no,
Uh,
even no Trump. No, they didn't care.
yeah,
Like Trump could shit his pants while shooting someone on Fifth Ave, and they would still vote for him. Honestly, fuck it. Same here, motherfucker. I don't give a fuck.
yeah. I mean, you're saying that like, unfortunately, Democrats have standards, and so you're like,
Unfortunately, they do. I hate it. Stop it,
yeah.
guys. Stop it. Be a cult. We'll win every time.
What party is banning IVF? Republicans in America. In vitro fertilization, yeah, the when you declare fetal personhood, and this is where like many of the southern states are going, that means like all in vitro fertilization is mass murder, because in order for in vitro fertilization to work, you you fertilize a whole bunch of eggs in order to try to get one that's viable. And so in Alabama, the Supreme Court there ruled that that these frozen embryos were people, and they tried to pass a law like after saying that IVF like is legal, but the genie's out of the bottle. Like the minute you're saying like fetal personhood, like you're coming for IVF, you're coming for birth control because the pill has conception on it. Um, so it's all done. It's all done. I didn't say IOF. That's really weird. I wouldn't have said IVF. I wouldn't have said IOF. I would have said IVF. But I mean, or even if I misspoke, it wouldn't be O. Hmm. I predicted that IVF would bring back reproductive rights. I mean, you're right. It's the thing is like it breaks their logic so clearly, So
Did you know that Mike Pence had his son through in vitro fertilization? Did you know that?
no, I didn't. What a
Yeah, no,
fucking
and
hypocrite.
there's a state senator, I forgot her name. She's for banning it, but that's how she had her kid.
Yeah, these fucking hypocrites. You know how they are. Yeah, I mean,
God, man. They're literally just cultists at this point. They really are. They're just cultists.
yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah. Oh well. Oh well. The end of America. If
There is one saving grace. There is the chosen ones that can save this whole situation, Preston.
what if Trump
They're
just
this.
if Trump just dies, which is possible. I mean,
I mean, it's not going to happen. But there is a group of people that can save us all if they just put down their TikToks for 2 seconds. Gen Z.
oh yeah. I mean, if they actually voted and cared. The problem is they're pretty gullible. You hear these people again. You get these people. You send them one thing like, the whole like neoliberal like shtick. The Democrats and Republicans are all the same shtick. Like that crap. That kind
If
of
it wasn't
stuff.
for
Like,
Gen Z, we wouldn't have had the red whimper that was the midterms. Gen Z came out in force for that.
mm,
But
um,
with this Gaza shit,
yeah.
we'll see what happens.
Um, look here. Look, this is the last time I'm talking to Smackamack. Um, if you think like claiming I don't support either is some sort of like higher smart position, you're wrong. Okay, I hate I hate people that claim that both are bad and don't like either worse than Trumpites, because at least MAGA people stand for something. You know, they're gullible fucking idiots, but at least they stand for something. Claiming like looking at like a ham sandwich and a pile of shit and being like they're equally bad is a level of stupidity. Like, yeah, the person chowing down on that pile of shit, yeah, they're fucking crazy. But also the person standing there with a hand filled with shit and a ham sandwich in the other going, I don't know which one I should eat. They're both equally bad, is just as much of a fucking idiot. Okay? There is clearly one side that is overwhelmingly better. Like, it's not even fucking close. It's not even fucking close. Ham sandwich, pile of shit. And you're like, I don't like ham sandwiches. Go like, no, go fuck yourself, okay? You got one or the other, okay? You know, you're not impressing anybody being like, I don't like Iowa. I'm calling them all out. No, you're a fucking idiot, okay? You're a fucking idiot, okay? We're talking about the end of democracy here, the end of the country if Trump wins. That's it. It's done. It's done. It's done. Like there's nothing more. You think like you think he's gonna like somehow not go after his political rivals? You think he's not gonna try to like arrest people? I mean, his advisors have been saying that they're going to build camps and call in the military to round up like any undocumented person who's not a citizen. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. Oh my God. Both are bad. No, they're not. No, they're not. Oh man. Which one should I fucking eat? Which one should I eat? You know, ham sandwiches have sometimes, you know, there's sometimes preservatives and nitrites in them. Oh, really? that's oh my God, that is exactly the same as a pile of shit. Oh man. Oh, I thought you were talking about Israel Palestine. Oh my God. Oh. What is this? Roe v. Wade ended under Biden. What? Like, what are you trying to say here? That like Biden caused it? What is that? Like what kind of like logic is? Well, I don't understand this. Eagle 88, please follow this up. What are you trying to say with this? Uh uh uh. Once it's done, what will you do next? Leave the country, take subversive action? Uh, I think we'll have to see what. I mean, I'm not going to do anything, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. But it's not going to be good. You're talking like everything falling apart. Um, I mean, wait and see. Oh. Democrats are responsible for Roe going down. I don't know how that's possible. I mean, by not voting enough, and I mean, I mean, that's the only logic I can think of for that. But um, Here's the thing. There's not two sides to this time. I will not support a candidate that is funding genocide. That's not a vote for Trump. No way. I don't know. Like, so I don't know, like the way funding works, but like nothing that Biden has funded has gone to Israel right now. Like the it takes literally like many years for American funding to do anything in another country. Now, and Biden's got nothing passed with regards to Israel funding anyway. So like now you could say, like, you could argue that Biden is for increased military funding for Israel, which is true. It has not passed. And if it were passed, in about 3 or 4 years, military equipment might make it to Israel. And so if the Gaza conflict is still going on in 3 or 4 years, well, if the thing gets passed and in 3 or 4 years the Gaza conflict is still going on, then something Biden funded could contribute to something. But currently, I'm just talking about the facts of bureaucracy. Currently, there's no funding by the U.S. of what's going on. I mean, you could claim that like some past funding that happened under, mixture of presidents, went to that. But that was Trump, Obama, W, going back. So that's the, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not, I don't know, so Biden's position, Biden is a big Israel fan, but he's also a big Palestine fan. Okay. So he's for the 2-state solution. So that's the difference. Like, the difference between Trump and Biden is for a 2-state solution, and Trump is for Israel getting all of Israel and there being no Palestinian state. All funding for the Palestinians, for the Palestinian Authority and assistance was cut under Trump. Biden restored it. So there is a difference between Biden and Trump. Biden's very pro-Israel. He's also very pro-Palestine. I say Palestinian Authority. No, nothing's gotten passed yet. The Israel funding hasn't been passed. And even if it were passed, the stuff wouldn't get there for years. Okay, the bureaucracy is slow. So funding, like when you pass something, and then it has to be appropriated and obligated, and then the way military equipment works is they don't just have it available. You actually do an order from a military contracting company who then has to start producing it. It's more like going and getting a custom cake made. It's not like going into Giant or wherever, Whole Foods, and grabbing food off the shelf. It's like going to a cake company and being like, I need a cake baked. Oh, really? What kind of, and that's the way like military equipment is. You have to go in and say like, these are the weapons I want produced. And then they start producing them. And that takes years. And then it's got to be shipped over there. So like I say, it's a process of about 3 to 4 years. If something gets passed, I mean, nothing's been passed. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying that like, I'm not saying the United States is innocent or anything like this, but I'm saying that like the very simple statement of like, oh, he's funding this. Well, no, like the timing doesn't really work out. It's more the equivalent of like, like say Carmine were like let's say Carmine's committing like some domestic abuse, and and I hear the domestic abuse going on, and then I go onto Amazon and I order like a bat for him, and it's going to arrive in 2 weeks. Okay, and you're like, well, am I funding? And I haven't even actually put in the order yet. Like, am I funding domestic abuse? It's like, well, I haven't even pressed like yes yet on the order, and it'll take 2 weeks for the bat to get here. That's what I'm talking about. Um, yeah, no funding, like no additional funding. There's certain like in the law already funding that we do to Israel every year. It's part of the it's part of the 79 like peace accords with Egypt that we give a certain amount of like funding. So that's all in place. There's a certain amount of funding that we give to Israel every year. That just happens. Now Biden has proposed additional military funding, has not passed. If it does pass, it will then take years for that money to actually translate to weapons on the ground, because it takes like 3 to 4 years for something to appear. I mean, this goes for any place. Like, that like.
Yeah, but do you think the average person knows that everything you're
No.
saying? They don't.
Like,
they don't.
None. Like, for instance, none of our funding for Ukraine has made it to Ukraine. Like this is one of these things. Like people are like, oh my gosh, U.S. is throwing all this money at Ukraine. Well, nothing we have actually funded has made it there yet. Things take years. you know.
I will say this then, Carol. If you can hold off your vote for Biden, that's fine. But if Trump gets in, I'm not saying that would be your fault. I'm just saying you have
Trump's worse. I mean, Trump is
well,
Trump,
no. If you don't vote and Trump gets in, obviously it's not your fault that he got in. It's not like your vote, like your single vote made Trump go. But you have no like shut the fuck up. Like whatever Trump does that affects you, shut the fuck up. Don't ever open your fucking mouth ever again during Trump's presidency, even if it directly affects you personally. If Trump passes a bill that every person you come across has to slap you in the face or face jail time, don't ever fucking complain about it because you didn't vote. Quite frankly, you didn't vote. Therefore, you have no say. So when someone comes in and you don't like them, okay. Obviously, it's lesser of two evils. If you think you should not, have a say in this election, which everyone should, then okay. But if Trump gets in, shut the fuck up. Don't say shit.
But did go around Congress. Well, I mean, Congress has a bill ready to be voted on. I mean, going around Congress, yeah, he talks to congressmen. He wants a bill passed. It hasn't been passed. Yes, surplus munitions reallocation, that did happen for Ukraine. That did happen. That doesn't happen for that hasn't happened for Israel. That the surplus munitions thing did happen for Ukraine. So we did send them our surplus munitions. Those did make it to the ground, but none of the funding of military sales kind of stuff made it there. But Chris, you are correct about the surplus munitions. Also, there's deals that we make with other Eastern European countries and promises. Their stuff might have made it too. You can't bypass Congress on weapons sales. That's just that's not how they work. I don't know what article you're looking at, but you can't do that. You can do the surplus thing, but you can't do a weapons sales without Congress.
I don't agree with Carmine here, but I do think people should know the consequences of inaction. I think there should be shaming. I really do. Like, look, if you're not gonna vote, shut the fuck up. This is it. Just shut the fuck up. Just shut your fucking mouth. Don't open it ever the fuck again. Just shut the fuck up.
Both parties love war. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's one of these situations where, like, okay, say you were um president of the United States, or and you're dealing with like Russia invading Ukraine. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do in these situations? When you actually examine a lot of these things individually, you kind of go, I see it. I mean, obviously not something obviously stupid like invading Iraq. That was really bad. But even when you look at, like, a big mistake like Afghanistan, if you were around in 2001, you kind of understand like how we got in there in the first place. Um, just kind of have these like sympathies to it. Okay, well, where do we go from here? What's our position? Um, let's see here. I'm trying to figure out this article here. Um, mm, 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 mm. Mm. Um, I'm trying to think of the. I'm trying to look at like what this was for. I'm looking at the PBS article now. I'm trying to see like what like determination they're doing, and where does that fall under. It's a pretty small amount, by the way. Like 147 million is pretty small amount. I mean, I know it's huge, but small amount. Um, I don't know what this is. Because you can't. So everyone's talking about the same thing, but it just doesn't. Like, what program is it? I can't even. They don't even like name the program. All right, I'm gonna take this quote in the middle and see if I can find that. Sorry if people find this boring. um, I wish they'd tell me like what program it's part of. The supposed emergency weapon sales.
By the way, I'm sorry. I have to.
I know.
I have to read this. I have to read this. I'm sorry. Actually, I've been a longtime viewer and supporter, already reconsidering. Unimpressed with the Preston slash Carmine show at this moment in time. Well, suck my dick. I don't know.
All right. All right. We have one more, and then I'm sure I've pissed everybody off, but I can't find like what program they're claiming this 147.5 million goes to. Um, but nonetheless, okay. I want to hear from everyone in chat too. Yo, Preston, do you think the phrase "we purged" are they going to be used for spells eaten, crucified, enslaved, frozen, and then thawed, then frozen again? Um, no, I mean, I generally think that like a phrase civil war is something is going to happen. Um, and I think it's just there's been I think they'll just be killed in regular battle against each other. We've heard far too much about the phrase disagreeing with each other. I mean, this is way back with the talking about Merit Frey in the epilogue of A Storm of Swords. And so, you've got you kind of look at the appendices, you can see that they're married to different people. George spent a lot of time on the phrase in the appendices, but not that much on other branches and like who they're married to and things like that. And they're weirdly married to all these Vale lords and such. And so I kind of think that the phrase are going to fight each other. Now people talk about like a Red Wedding 2.0, like Devon Lannister. Having a wedding and people getting killed at that or something. I don't know. I mean, if that happens, it would be so late in the game because like now the story is moving so fast and so much happens within a month. Like how much time do they need to like prepare for a wedding and stuff like that? But I think that's about it. But anyway, anything else before I go, Carmine?
Yeah, one more thing. Probably wasn't a big part of your childhood, but it was mine. Rest in peace, Akira Toriyama, creator of Dragon Ball. He passed away.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last Dragon Ball property that like came out?
I think last year or the year before that, which was Dragon Ball. I'm going to be very real with you.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, controversial,
Yeah.
especially among the Latinos, because the Latinos, they love Dragon Ball, myself included. I think Akira Toriyama should have stayed retired. I'm going to be real with you. Some of the newest stuff kind of sucks. Dragon Ball Super kind of sucks. Some of the movies, with the exception of Broly, kind of sucked. But nonetheless, he made Coming Home from School a bit more exciting. So, rest in peace.
A lot of people talk about, it being drag on ball, right? That's the joke.
I've never heard that joke. I'm being very real with you.
Really?
I've never heard that. Never heard that joke.
Drag on ball?
Wait. Because the episode's drag. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like there's so much weird talking about like what they're going to do in their battle. So are you saying that the phrase won't be held accountable for hosting the wedding? It feels like guest right is no joke. Seems like it would be one of those things that ends a whole house. I mean, I think that like in a general sense, like each of those characters might die, and so there might be a feeling of comeuppance. But the thing is like everybody in the story is dying, so I don't know. I mean, guest right. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of broken guest right in the story, and I'm trying to think if and just thinking of like the things that like the Starks have done that would be considered, I mean Rob breaking his betrothal is taboo. So I mean, guest right is taboo, right? You know, like breaking guest right is taboo. Um, so I don't know. I get it. Like the story seems to put this like extra spooky thing on, like, oh, you broke guest right. Oh no, like it's so important that the that the rat cook, like, not he wasn't it wasn't evil that he cannibalized his children. It was evil that he broke guest right. This like weird spooky thing, but logically speaking, guest right should mean nothing. It's just a cultural thing. Like, we say the gods hate it, but like there are no real gods, like unless you're counting like Bran in a tree. Um, so I mean, yeah, in a come up in sense, like, yeah, all these Freys are gonna die, but everybody's gonna die. So many people are gonna die. So I don't know. There's this weird thing because some people like look at like the cannibalization of the Freys during Frey pies, and they're like, haha, getting those Freys back. And it's like, well, Rhaegar Frey wasn't even there. Like, all these sorts of things. Like, why does he die? So I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a lot of them are going to get killed. And I think that's probably enough in the story for the comeuppance. I don't know if anything related to guest right, like you're saying, like there needs to be an ironic, like they have another wedding, and then the guest right is violated, and all the people that violated the guest right before get their comeuppance, in a violated guest rights sense. But I don't know. I just um it's we'll see. um But here's the thing. Is, say you bypass Congress. I mean, the thing is Congress has the purse strings, so you can't get like very much funding. This is why, like, I was like, oh, it's only 147 million. There may have been some sort of like pre-existing fund that could be used for many countries or something that was tapped into, but generally speaking, you're not going to get funding without Congress, because Congress funds. I mean, they'd have to be tapping into something that was already passed, like some sort of emergency fund for general use or something, to transfer something over. But again, it's a really small amount of money in when you're talking about military sales. Um, but but what, okay, 147 million, or whatever. But it's generally speaking, you're gonna need Congress for your for your funding. Um, oh, why are there no beauty pageants in the Seven Kingdoms? Isn't that the Queen of Love and Beauty? Isn't that already there? So we got a singer contest, so I guess there could be some beauty contests. I don't know when beauty contests came around. Beauty pageants. Oh, like more breaking the law. I mean, I guess the situation is that there's more and more taboo. Like the taboos just keep getting broken and broken. There's probably going to be more taboos broken, but all the taboos seem to be broken. When Joffrey was murdered, that breaks almost all the taboos. Um, oh, I haven't paid attention to this. Remember, the stream numbers were more consistent around 200 to 300, and then way dying off at this point of the night. Preston Brand is strong. Are there more people watching than there used to? I don't know. Haven't figured it off. Anyway, Carmine. Uh, I guess I will see. I'll talk to you later. Talk to you tomorrow.
Yes, we are eagerly waiting for some. Hey, by the way, that I'm gonna message that dude. We should get that shit first before he uploads it. Then that way we can like, yeah, no. We'll let it come out first. Let people
What are you
digest
talking
it.
about, dude? What are you talking
Let
about?
let people digest the thing, and then we'll do. But
Yeah.
I'm ready whenever you are. Like I'm
Okay.
down. I'll read that bitch.
Sounds good. We got some. Sounds good. Very soon we got some exciting content this week. Exciting
There,
content.
let me make this very clear to the audience, just to pepper it up. There's no one more excited about what we're gonna talk about than Preston, because a lot of the stuff he's been talking about for years is kind of gonna be like vindicated. Like, because you've been talking about a lot of the stuff that we are learning about for a long time, and there have been some people in the community who are like, well, they're just there, whatever. No, you've put a important eye on this. You put an eye on this. It's very important, and apparently it was.
Oh, you're talking Maester stuff. Maester stuff.
Oh, Maester stuff, yeah.
Oh, okay. All
What
right.
did you think I was talking about? The fuck?
I get
Forget.
it. I don't know.
What do you mean?
Okay. So, I'm saying everybody's still here because it's nighty night, but there's going to be some exciting content this week. Exciting content this week. Stuff that'll knock your socks off. Sound good? Okay. Carmine, thank you everyone, and I will see you guys next time.